Chapter 759 It's Feng Wu's lucky day. 759 It's Feng Wu's lucky day. That was to say, an hour after the tryout started, 50 students had dropped out of the exam. The tryout this year is so difficult. A candidate popped out of the portal after giving up on the tryout and he collapsed in the square. He was covered in blood, had a big gash on his head, and was missing half his right ear. No one could bring themselves to look at him in that mangled state. Everyone in the square had been watching the changes in ranking and they wanted to know everything about the tryout. They were thrilled to see a candidate come out. However, before they could reach him, guards from Imperial College had arrived with a stretcher. They helped the candidate onto it, then carried him away. A hush fell over the square. If I'm not mistaken, that's Zhao Tianzi, right? You know the guy. I know of him. He's the son of the governor of Tianzi province and he's the top candidate from his province. I didn't expect him to be eliminated so soon. The tryout this year is so difficult. The son of a governor failed just like that. Of course it's difficult. They're in Proud Snowfield, which is the toughest of all the 7 terrains. Luck wasn't on Zhao Tianzi's side if you ask me. I heard that he got transported right into Zone 3 and ran into a level 3 spiritual grandmaster magical beast. Before he knew it, he was getting his ass kicked. Zone 3? That's the area where junior spiritual grandmaster magical beasts dwell. If I recall correctly, Zone 3 is the closest that candidates can get to the center of the terrain. Zone 1 and Zone 2 are sealed off, and only students in Year 2 and above can enter. That's right. Zhao Tianzi was really unlucky. The air was filled with a clamor of discussion as more candidates popped out of the portal. Some came back from Zone 4 and some from Zone 3. Exactly how are the magical beasts distributed in Proud Snowfield? Many asked the question in confusion when they saw how severely injured the candidates were. Someone answered the question. It's quite straightforward. Zone 5 is the outermost circle and any candidates that aren't that unlucky are teleported there. The magical beasts there start at level 9 spiritual master, and only go as high as level 1 spiritual grandmaster. Magical beasts in Zone 4 are spiritual grandmasters from levels 1 to 3. As for Zone 3, the magical beasts there are level 3 spiritual grandmasters at least, but won't be above level 5. And so on and so forth. Of course, because Zone 1 and Zone 2 aren't open to outsiders, only the heads of Imperial College know what magical beasts reside there. Zhao Tianzi was really unlucky. He was tossed into Zone 3 right away. The guy must have the worst luck of all the candidates. That's so true. Feng Wu hasn't shown up yet. I thought she would be the first to come out. It's her lucky day, I guess. She must be in Zone 5. I think so. But if she's in Zone 5, she'll get very little spiritual essence from killing the magical beasts. She won't be able to pass the physical tryout. No one expected her to pass anyway. Chapter 760 Recommendation Letter. 760 Recommendation Letter. However, they didn't know that Feng Wu had been thrown into Zone 2 and had run into a family of spiny frost beasts who were level 5 spiritual grandmasters. Their eyes would pop out if they knew what happened. Feng Wu pulled out the map to check her own location. She really was in Zone 2. Feng Wu smiled bitterly. That explained that ferocious family of 3. Seeing that most candidates were in Zone 3 and Zone 4, Feng Wu was reminded of Chaoga. That kid was so outspoken and simple-minded. She hoped that Chaoga wouldn't walk into someone else's trap. If Chaoga ran into Mu Yaoyao and her people. Shaking her head, Feng Wu decided to take a walk in Zone 3. Magical beasts there were spiritual grandmasters between level 3 and level 5, and she could handle them easily. Thanks to the red dots on the map, Feng Wu was able to find the other candidates without being spotted. No Chaoga. No Chaoga. No Chaoga. After walking around in Zone 3, Feng Wu found 3 groups that were comprised of candidates who had teamed up to fight the magical beasts. A team of 3 to 5 candidates was an equal match for a level 3 magical beast. Every time Feng Wu found a candidate that wasn't Chaoga, she would mark them on the map. Chaoga was nowhere to be seen in the whole of Zone 3. Was the kid lucky enough to be transported to Zone 4? Magical beasts there were between level 1 and level 3. As a level 1 spiritual grandmaster, Chaoga would be able to handle 1 or 2 on her own. Since Chaoga wasn't in Zone 3, Feng Wu continued her search in Zone 4. Mark. Feng Wu moved very fast in the snow-covered field. She wore a white dress with a cape that had white fox fur piping around the lower hem, which gave her a smart and elegant look. With her white outfit and lightning speed, almost none of the candidates could detect her. When she showed up again, she was in Zone 4. "What do you people want?" someone shouted angrily in the distance. Duan Chaoga glared at Wenling. "I killed that cloud leopard. You people showed up at the last minute and took all the spiritual essence away. You sleazy bastards." "Ha ha ha ha," Wenling smirked. "Duan Chaoga, we were the first to beat this cloud leopard half-dead before you showed up to take the credit. We're the victims here. How dare you accuse us?" Chaoga was all by herself. But Wenling had help. Lucky for her, she had been able to meet up with Lu Hao and Mu Qing. 3 against 1. Chaoga was outnumbered. Despite that, Chaoga was never going to surrender to the villains. Chaoga scowled. "I'm the victim here and you're the ones trying to take the credit." Wenling gloated. "No, you are." Stomping her foot in vexation, Chaoga charged at them. "It's mine and I'm not going to let you take it. Give me back the leopard's spiritual essence." "Oh my, you wanna fight? Great." Wenling smirked and said to her friends, "Duan Chaoga is with Feng Wu, and that woman is an eyesore to Boss Yafei. Take this woman down and it'll be as good as a recommendation letter when we bring her to Princess Mu." "All right." Behind Wenling, Lu Hao's and Mu Qing's eyes lit up. Chapter 761. Do you have a death wish? 761. Do you have a death wish? Wenling and the other 2 surrounded Chaoga. Thump, thump, thump. A fight started. Chaoga fought 3 enemies all at once in the snowfield, and was able to fend them off in the beginning. As time went by, however, Chaoga began to tire. It was less energy-consuming for the other 3, and they weren't as fatigued as she was. "Haha, Duan Chaoga, you're so dead." Wenling's smile looked very savage. Thump. She hit Chaoga in the chest. Lu Hao and Mu Qing had each grabbed one of Chaoga's arms, immobilizing her. She had no choice but to endure the full impact of the blow. Chaoga felt a throbbing pain in her chest. She glared at Wenling. Unfortunately, instead of making any progress, Chaoga's cultivation level had dropped in the past 5 years. The exam started shortly after she regained her normal ability, and it was only natural that she was no match for these 3 people working together. Given time, she could surely surpass them. But time was something she didn't have at the moment. "Duan Chaoga, I'm only going to say this once." Wenling stared at Duan Chaoga with a taunting look on her face. "Say Feng Wu is a bitch and we'll cut you loose." Wenling was so sly. Of all these candidates, Chaoga was Feng Wu's best friend. If Chaoga were to betray Feng Wu, the effect would be devastating. "Say it." Pinching Chaoga's chin, Wenling stared at her in contempt. She then punched Chaoga in the stomach. "Now." Cough cough. It hurt a lot. Wenling was a level 1 spiritual grandmaster at least, and she spared no effort with that blow. Chaoga spat out a mouthful of blood. "Say it." Wenling stared at Chaoga. But Chaoga only smirked and looked right into Wenling's eyes. "Kill me if you want. I'll never betray Xiao Wu. Kill me now. I dare you." "You think I won't do it?" Wenling snorted. With a flip of her wrist, a dagger appeared in her hand. The sharp blade glinted in the sunlight. Wenling rested the blade against Chaoga's throat. "Say it or I'll kill you." Chaoga sneered at her. "You bitch. Yi Yafei is a bitch. So is Mu Yaoya." Wenling blanched with fury. "What are you doing?" An emotionless voice rang out a few steps away from them. Turning around, Wenling was so frightened that she almost dropped her dagger. It was none other than Mu Yaoyao. And behind her were Yao Hao and Yao Ying, the Yao siblings. "Are you making her curse me?" Mu Yaoyao stared at Wenling instead of Chaoga. Wenling was shaking all over and almost dropped to her knees. "Princess Mu. It's not like that. I wasn't." Wenling explained herself in a hurry. "She's Duan Chaoga and I wanted to make her betray Feng Wu and curse her. But she's so stubborn. And I didn't know that she was going to curse you. It's all my fault. When Ling eventually knelt down with her head lowered, she was petrified. Mu Yaoyao was already a prominent princess and her grandfather had just been made the head of Imperial College. Only an idiot would try to offend her. Crossing her hands behind her back, Mu Yaoyao shifted her taunting gaze from Wen Ling to Chaoga. Why Duan Chaoga, it's you. The casual tone was filled with contempt. Chapter 762 Feng Wu has arrived. 762 Feng Wu has arrived. Chaoga glared at her. Mu Yaoyao replied with a half-smile. When Ling said what I wanted to say. Rolling her whip up, Mu Yaoyao raised her chin and said in a taunting voice, say Feng Wu is a bitch and I'll let you go. Otherwise. Before Mu Yaoyao could finish her sentence. Tui. Chaoga spat at Mu Yaoyao. And the sticky saliva caught Mu Yaoyao right in her face. Mu Yaoyao was astonished. She was caught off guard. She was a well-respected princess whose grandfather was the head of Imperial College, but someone had just spat in her face. Mu Yaoyao retched. She could no longer hold her smirk. Pointing at Chaoga, she roared, take care of her. Whip her as hard as you can. I want her dead. She then tossed the whip to Yaoying behind her. Yaoying was Mu Yaoyao's most loyal minion, for Mu Mansion was the Yao family's patron. Hence, Yaoying had been Mu Yaoyao's reading companion since she was little. Taking Mu Yaoyao's whip, Yaoying lashed Chaoga hard in the face. Chaoga had lost the extra weight and was down to less than 50 kilograms. She was a slim, pretty girl again. The whip cut a bloody gash in her fair cheek. Whip her. Don't stop. The memory of Chaoga's spit on her face made Mu Yaoyao want to throw up. She had been born in the lap of luxury, and that was the grossest thing she had ever experienced. The memory would probably haunt her for the rest of her life. Crack. The whip landed on Chaoga's face, arms, and the rest of her body. It hurt. The pain was excruciating. Chaoga had cuts and gashes all over her body and every inch of her skin was covered in blood. Her clothes were soaked. It really hurt. So much so that she almost passed out. Say it. Say it now. Grinding her teeth, Yaoying prodded Chaoga. Chaoga sneered at them, and only gritted her teeth harder and wouldn't even let them hear her grunt. Betray Xiao Wu? Over her dead body. Just when Chaoga was soaked with cold sweat from the pain, Feng Wu finally reached them. The first thing she saw was Chaoga being held still by two people, and a third person whipping her mercilessly. Beside them, someone else was giving orders in a vicious voice. Yes. I want her dead. Blood rushed into Feng Wu's head. Thump. Feng Wu charged out and kicked Yaoying in the stomach. Yaoying flew backward at the strike. Before the others could see who Feng Wu was. Thump. 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 Feng Wu struck out continuously, sending Lu Hao and Mu Qing into the air. Both saw something flit past them, and before they knew it they were in the air. Then with a thump, they hit the ground face down. The impact created a deep pit in the ground, and they were buried in it right away. There were only 3 people left. Wen Ling, Yao Hao and Mu Yaoyao. All 3 stared at Feng Wu as if they had seen a ghost. Feng Wu supported Chaoga with one hand. Seeing the condition she was in, Feng Wu almost burst into tears. She was devastated. Chaoga. Chaoga? Holding Chaoga in her arms, Feng Wu gritted her teeth, fighting back her fury. Chaoga had almost lost consciousness, but she opened her eyes at Feng Wu's voice. Chapter 763 Feng Wu in a fury. 763 Feng Wu in a fury. Helping Chaoga to her feet, Feng Wu was infuriated when she saw Chaoga's unsteady gait. Without hesitation, she stuffed a pill into Chaoga's mouth. Xiao Wu. Stop talking. Swallow the pill, activate your spiritual essence, and work on healing your injuries. Feng Wu then helped Chaoga sit down. After taking care of Chaoga, Feng Wu turned around to face the other 3. The look she gave Mu Yaoyao was as sharp as a cold blade. What do you want? Staring at Feng Wu, Mu Yaoyao couldn't help but stumble back at Feng Wu's piercing gaze. Stumble back. When she realized her reaction, Mu Yaoyao gritted her teeth and stepped forward. Mu Yaoyao stared at Feng Wu. Feng Wu walked toward Mu Yaoyao one step at a time, her gaze fixed on the latter the whole time. What do you want? Mu Yaoyao glared at Feng Wu. Don't for a minute think you can scare me. Feng Wu smirked, her gaze as sharp as a blade. Yao Hao blocked her way. Feng Wu, stop right there. Feng Wu glanced at him. Who the hell do you think you are? How dare you threaten the princess? I can kill you with a snap of my fingers. Yao Hao considered himself a capable cultivator. He was a level 2 spiritual grandmaster already. However, Feng Wu only raised a hand. Instead of striking out herself, whoosh! Little Phoenix materialized in the air and charged at Yao Hao. After absorbing the energy of the abnormal flame bead, Little Phoenix could finally come out of the ring. It used to be the size of a palm, but now its body expanded and it spread out its wings like a giant eagle. Phew! The bird opened its beak, puffing out orange-red flame. Instantly there was fire everywhere. Ah! A fireball flew right at Yao Hao's chest. Whoosh! Caught off guard, Yao Hao was caught in the fire. Ah! He screamed in pain. The fire burnt through his clothes in no time and ate at his flesh. The pain brought tears to Yao Hao's eyes. He was quick to react. Jumping back, he began to roll around in the snow. They were in the middle of a snowfield and the ground was covered in snow. He thought that rolling around would put out the fire immediately, but he was wrong. Little Phoenix's fire was the abnormal flame which it had obtained from Jun Linyuan. An abnormal flame wasn't something one could extinguish with water. Ah! Ah! Yao Hao kept rolling and patting at his chest, but the fire only grew bigger and began to spread out. Wen Ling was baffled by what she saw. That bird was incredible. How frightening. Where had Feng Wu found such a pet? Wen Ling knew that Mu Yaoyao hadn't even reached Yao Hao's cultivation level. Yao Hao's dilemma meant that Mu Yaoyao wouldn't be able to protect her. Recalling what she had done to Chaoga, Wen Ling felt a chill run down her spine. She turned around and ran. She couldn't fight, but she could flee. But, as soon as she turned around, Feng Wu's cold voice rang out behind her. Staring at Wen Ling's back, Feng Wu grinned. Wen Ling, where do you think you're going? With Feng Wu's great memory, of course she remembered Hua Yin and Wen Ling. She only pretended not to recognize Hua Yin to embarrass the latter. Feng Wu's voice made Wen Ling jump. Without hesitation she bolted. However, Chapter 764 Feng Wu demonstrates her power. 764 Feng Wu demonstrates her power. However, Feng Wu only snorted and darted a glance at Little Phoenix. Little Phoenix and Feng Wu could read each other's minds. All it took was a look from Feng Wu. Whoosh! Little Phoenix flew as swift as an arrow at Wen Ling. Whoosh! Orange-red flame spurted out of its beak and headed straight for Wen Ling's back. Ah! Wen Ling was devoured by flames from behind. The flames looked like devilish faces and made wicked giggling sounds. Ah! Not only Wen Ling's back, but her hair was on fire as well. Help! Help! Princess Mu! Help! Tears rolled down Wen Ling's face, but she couldn't make a sound because of the searing pain. At that moment she could smell death and she was scared. Copying Yao Hao, she rolled around in the snow. She cried and she pleaded, but nothing worked. The fire seemed to have a life of its own, and wouldn't die no matter what. And it bored deeper into her skin. Wen Ling regretted everything she had done. Why did she have to do that to Chaoga? Why? However, it was already spilled milk. Looking at Mu Yaoyao, Feng Wu smirked. Now that those two are out of the way, Princess Mu, it's finally your turn. Mu Yaoyao had seen how miserable Yao Hao was after he caught on fire, and how Wen Ling's life was hanging by a thread, and that was enough to make her ditch her pride. She wasn't even as good as Yao Hao. Feng Wu, I'm warning you. Mu Yaoyao stumbled back as she made empty threats. I'm a princess. I'm a princess from a noble family. Feng Wu smiled a little. A princess? Is that a big deal? If everything went as planned, she would be a princess herself very soon. You won't kill me. Why not? Do that and you're dead. Your family will all be dead. Really? I'm so scared. Feng Wu, stop. Stop right there. Stay away from me. Feng Wu scoffed at those words. You should have thought about the consequences when you hurt Chaoga. A whip appeared in Feng Wu's hand. Thump! She lashed it at Mu Yaoyao, and she spared no effort. The strike sent Mu Yaoyao flying. Mu Yaoyao screamed in fear. However, under Little Phoenix's threatening stare, there was nothing she could do. Mu Yaoyao smashed into the ground, the impact creating a huge crater beneath her. She glared at Feng Wu. She had no idea where Feng Wu found such an incredible bird, but she knew that there was no way she could fight it. Run! Mu Yaoyao made a flee sign with her fingers, and with a whoosh, she disappeared on the spot. The woman fled. Feng Wu frowned and was baffled. Mu Yaoyao had torn something before she fled. What was that? By now, Yao Hao and Wen Ling were barely breathing. With a wave of Feng Wu's hand, white light flashed and the fire was gone. Sob! Wen Ling cried in pain. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she gasped. For a moment back there, she really thought she was going to die. Yao Hao lay on his back and his head was swimming. Every breath was torture. What did Mu Yaoyao use? Feng Wu gritted her teeth. Mu Yaoyao was the main culprit. Chapter 765 A Breakthrough? 765 A Breakthrough. Feng Wu was only able to lash Mu Yaoyao with the whip once before the latter bolted. That woman hadn't suffered enough. She knew that Yao Hao was Mu Yaoyao's closest minion, and she directed her question at Yao Hao. Yao Hao was going to resist, but as soon as Little Phoenix opened its mouth, he felt like crying, even before any flames came out. All right, I'll tell you. Feng Wu sneered at him. It's a teleport scroll. Yao Hao took a deep breath. There's an amazing cultivator in the Mu family who specializes in teleportation. He made the scroll for Princess Mu so that she could teleport herself away in critical moments. How many does Mu Yaoyao have? How many? Yao Hao smiled bitterly. Miss Feng, a teleport scroll is as valuable as a human life. It's unbelievably expensive on the market, if you can get your hands on it at all. Once it's out on the market, the price will be outrageously high. The scroll Princess Mu had was a last resort thing. Lord Mu went to that cultivator himself to get that scroll. It's the only one. Feng Wu smirked. If Mu Yaoyao only had one such scroll, she wouldn't be able to get away next time. Just then, there were rumbling sounds overhead. The noise converged and eventually gathered over Chaoga's head. All eyes were on Chaoga right away. And even Feng Wu looked surprised. Yao Hao's eyes opened so wide that his eyeballs threatened to fall out. On Chaoga, she's... Feng Wu kept her gaze on Chaoga and saw that the latter was sucking in spiritual essence from around her like a crazy maelstrom. But there wasn't enough. Feng Wu raised an eyebrow. With a wave of her hand, people flew in Chaoga's direction. Wen Ling, Yao Hao, Yaoing, Lu Hao and Mu Qing. Their own spiritual essence couldn't be sucked out, but each of them had at least 2 stars on their headbands. No one knew how Feng Wu did it, but... The next moment, all the stars on Wen Ling's headband dimmed. She had lost her 2 stars. The same thing then happened to Yao Hao, Yaoing, Lu Hao and Mu Qing. All their stars dimmed. The spiritual essence they had gathered from hunting and robbing their fellow candidates was absorbed by Chaoga. No. Realizing what Feng Wu was doing, Yao Hao and the others tried to resist, but there was nothing they could do. Who would have thought that Feng Wu would have such a terrifying little phoenix with her? That bird spat fire at everyone. And it wasn't normal fire. Nothing could put it out. It had to be the rare abnormal flame. Phew. Chaoga exhaled, then opened her eyes. After all the spiritual essence she had absorbed, her eyes were as clear and bright as the ocean. Xiao Wu, did I make a breakthrough? Chaoga looked at her own hands in disbelief. Only a moment ago she thought she was going to die, but things turned around so quickly, and the next thing she knew she was leveling up. Feng Wu smiled. What level are you now? I'm a level 2 spiritual grandmaster. Chaoga grinned. Chaoga had been making progress at an unbelievable speed these days. She had been a mere level 5 spiritual master before Feng Wu came back, but she was already a level 2 spiritual grandmaster now. At this rate... Chapter 766 Frost Essence. 766 Frost Essence. Feng Wu was genuinely happy for Chaoga when she found out that the girl was already at level 2. She had been with Chaoga the whole time as the latter progressed from a level 5 spiritual master to a level 2 spiritual grandmaster. Feng Wu believed that the girl would only get more powerful in the future. Thanks to her breakthrough, spiritual essence circulated throughout Chaoga's body. When she examined herself again, she saw that all her internal injuries had been healed, as well as the cuts on her skin. As for Yao Hao and the others, Chaoga kicked the guy around before turning to Wenling. "Don't kill me. Please don't. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." Wenling dropped to her knees and pleaded. Chaoga smirked. "I'm not going to kill you, but you'll wish I did." After that, Chaoga raised her dagger. Ah! Wenling watched as the blade cut into her cheek. It was so deep that it exposed the bone. Chaoga left a bloody deep gash on Wenling's face. Ah! Wenling screamed before collapsing on the ground. She was so frightened that she passed out. The others, especially Yao Ying, who was also a girl, covered their faces in fear. Chaoga had ruined Wenling's face. The cut was so deep that Yao Ying could hear the blade scratch the bone. No one would be able to fix her face. Yao Ying turned to run. But Chaoga would never let her flee. As a level 2 spiritual grandmaster, Chaoga was the most advanced cultivator here, second only to Feng Wu. With a wave of her hand, Chaoga picked Yao Ying up like an eagle snatching a chicken. Whoosh! She repeated what she had done to Wenling. Yao Hao and the others glared at Chaoga, but were too scared to say anything. Chaoga smirked. "I know that a scar on the face means little to guys, but this one will be the shame of your life." Whoosh! She made another cut. Whoosh! Whoosh! Chaoga cut each person on the cheek, making a deep gash. It would stick with them and remind them of the shame. It was a scar they would carry for life. After taking care of Wenling and the others, Feng Wu and Chaoga went on their way. "Xiao Wu." Chaoga took hold of Feng Wu's hand and said in a pitiful voice, "Xiao Wu, thank God you got there in time. I could have been killed." Feng Wu patted her on the head, then said in a grumpy tone, "No, you wouldn't have. Even if they were going to kill you, they would make sure to do it in front of me." They wanted to enrage her to make her act impulsively. That way they would have an excuse to kill her. Mu Yaoyao's target had always been Feng Wu, and Feng Wu alone. "Xiao Wu, where are we going now?" Chaoga asked. She would stop thinking whenever Feng Wu was around. All she needed to do was follow Feng Wu. "First of all, we'll find Mu Yao to get our revenge. Then we'll get enough spiritual essence to light up all 7 stars. But most importantly, we need to find frost essence." Frost essence? Chaoga looked bewildered. "What was that? I haven't told you?" Feng Wu smacked her own head. "No. This is the first time I've heard of it." Feng Wu said, "Grand Secretary Feng is building a formation for cultivation next door. And the formation has to have a core, which is what the frost essence is for." Chapter 767 Eavesdropping. 767 Eavesdropping. Chaoga stared at Feng Wu. What a coincidence. There just happens to be frost essence in the terrain for the physical tryout? Feng Wu smiled at her. "I see." Chaoga smacked her own thigh. "You made this happen, didn't you? You asked Grand Secretary Feng to pick this terrain where that frost essence is, right?" Feng Wu shrugged. "Grand Secretary Feng hasn't always been the vice principal, has he? But I did suggest he choose Proud Snowfield for the physical tryout." "Xiao Wu, you're incredible." Duan Chaoga was amazed. She then gloated. "I overheard the other candidates complaining about this terrain earlier, saying it was too difficult. If they knew it was you." "Sure." Feng Wu shushed her with a finger. Chaoga covered her mouth and stared at Feng Wu in bewilderment. But one of Chaoga's good qualities was that she always followed Feng Wu's orders. Feng Wu led Chaoga to the back of a snowdrift, and they sat down out of the wind. The snowdrift was as tall as a wall. No one passing by on the other side could see them. They heard someone talking on the other side. "Have you heard?" "What?" "There's a super impressive candidate among us this time. That person got tossed into Zone 2 when we were teleported in." "Wow. Zone 2. Aren't magical beasts their level 5 spiritual grandmasters at least?" To newbies like them who hadn't made it into Imperial College, a level 5 spiritual grandmaster was something they could only dream about. That's right. I was told that the person killed 3 spiny frost beasts all at once. Seriously? Seriously? Who could that be? With what they can do, they've got to be the best candidate this year. Someone said it was Yuminji, the legendary sacred son of the Dark Court? Well, I'm not surprised if it's him. He surpassed the spiritual grandmaster stage already. No spiritual grandmaster is his match. But some say that it wasn't him, for he headed for the center of Proud Snowfield as soon as he entered. So, it wasn't him. I don't think so. Who else then? Apart from the Sacred Son, 3 top candidates were mentioned this year. Ning Chenxi of Anyuan Province, Xin Yuanyi of the Xin Yuan family, and Gong Sun Qing. Gong Sun Qing? So, Miss Gong Sun, the 3rd daughter of the Gong Sun family, is one of the 3 top candidates? Someone said in a pleased tone. Miss Gong Sun was here with them. Feng Wu and Chaoga exchanged looks. Neither of them had heard of this Miss Gong Sun, but it was clear that those talking on the other side all knew who she was. For many cried out in surprise. Miss Gong Sun? Gong Sun Qing? Gong Sun Qing's people gloated and proudly replied, Yes, we have Miss Gong Sun Qing with us here. All the others were instantly thrilled and showered Gong Sun Qing with praise and flattery. After all, Gong Sun Qing was one of the top candidates in the bunch. Since they were lucky enough to run into her, of course they would jump at the opportunity. Miss Gong Sun, I'm Tao Shuang. Miss Gong Sun, I'm Yin Yi. Miss Gong Sun, I'm Du Jian. Miss Gong Sun, I'm... Gong Sun Qing only had 2 people with her. They were 2 siblings, Shi Sun and Shi Xian. The brother and sister raised their eyebrows in satisfaction. They were part of Gong Sun Qing's clique and felt like they could share Gong Sun Qing's fame. Chapter 768 The Aloof Girl? 768 The Aloof Girl. Gong Sun Qing darted a glance at them in a nonchalant manner, gave them a little nod, then went back to her cultivation. Soon Tao Shuang and the others struck up a conversation with the Shi siblings. Shi Sun asked, Hey, do you remember Feng Wu, that top student in the written exam? Maybe she'll be the dark horse of the physical tryout. Ha 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 ha. Tao Shuang and the others guffawed. Shi Sun frowned. Why are you laughing? Tao Shuang said, You're not from the imperial capital, so you probably don't know this. Feng Wu lost her cultivation ability for good. But hasn't she recovered after so many years? Of course not. How can one recover a lost ability? Feng Wu is going to spend the rest of her life a cripple. But she just won't accept it. She just had to force her way into this exam. Is she asking for humiliation or what? That's so true. Feng Wu got excellent marks in the written exam because she's always been bright. It's no surprise that she got the top score, but when it comes to the physical tryout, well, she better hide herself well. That's so true. Unluckily for her, we have the toughest terrain this year, Proud Snowfield. We can withstand the cold by activating our spiritual essence, but Feng Wu, I don't think she can stand it. She may not be able to walk out of Proud Snowfield alive in 7 days. Everyone was discussing Feng Wu animatedly. Chaoga was infuriated by everything she heard. She wanted to rush out and beat up everyone who was trashing Feng Wu behind her back. Feng Wu stopped her and shook her head with a smile. We talk about other people behind their backs and we get talked about the same way. Big deal. Feng Wu shrugged. Moreover, she had deliberately concealed her true capability, so that she could take advantage of the way everyone underestimated her. She couldn't care less about their comments. But Chaoga cared. She was the hot-headed one. Feng Wu could only shake her head with a wry smile. But Chaoga always obeyed Feng Wu. Since Feng Wu had stopped her, she would suppress her anger no matter what. No one noticed that Gong Sun Qing, who was supposed to be cultivating, hadn't been paying any attention to it at all this whole time. Her mind had wandered off the moment she heard Feng Wu's name. Feng Wu, I thought I would have a chance to face you in combat, but here you are, still a cripple. I can kill you as easily as stepping on an ant. Gong Sun Qing smirked. Everyone stopped talking and stared at Gong Sun Qing in bewilderment. That was so arrogant. Gong Sun Qing sounded as aloof as a princess. Can you? A quiet voice came from behind the snowdrift. Who's there? Gong Sun Qing was astonished. Someone had been hiding there and she hadn't noticed at all? She only became aware of the person once they spoke. With a wave of Gong Sun Qing's hand, a gust of wind struck the snowdrift. The snow toppled onto Feng Wu like a thick wall. Feng Wu snorted. She didn't need to do anything, for Little Phoenix had opened its beak. Whoosh! A fireball charged at Gong Sun Qing right for her face. Orange-red flames filled the air and columns of fire flew around like blazing dragons, frightening everyone. They were shocked. What bird is that? No one noticed Feng Wu and Chaoga, for Little Phoenix had drawn all their attention. But Little Phoenix turned all its attention on Gong Sun Qing. Chapter 769 The Little Girl Back Then? 769 The Little Girl Back Then. Although Little Phoenix was proud, sharp-tongued, and wouldn't admit to being Feng Wu's mount itself, it couldn't stand it when other people looked down on Feng Wu. Its master had left an explicit instruction, telling it to protect the dumb little Feng Wu. How dare these people say those things? They were practically insulting the mighty Little Phoenix. You ignorant human! Die! The angrier Little Phoenix became, the more deadly its fire was. Balls of flame hurtled at Gong Sun Qing one after another. Gong Sun Qing wasn't called one of the top 3 candidates for nothing. The girl was very capable. What was more, she specialized in the ice attribute. In this terrain she was at home. In order to defend herself against Little Phoenix's attack, she activated the ice element, and snow rose into the air, forming an ice shield around her. Columns of fire pounded at the shield, but couldn't break it no matter what. They had reached an impasse. Exasperated, Little Phoenix kept spitting out more fire. Attack! 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 The ice shield around Gong Sun Qing grew thinner and water dripped down around her. However, Feng Wu noticed that Little Phoenix was running out of spiritual essence and was gasping for air. Feng Wu patted the bird. Little guy, you can stop now. No! Little Phoenix shook its head grumpily without turning its gaze away from Gong Sun Qing. It snorted. Little Feng Wu might be dumb and silly, but that's for me to say. No one else can say anything bad about her. This little bird. Feng Wu shook her head in resignation. Little Feng Wu? As in Feng Wu. Everyone looked at Feng Wu in disbelief when they heard the name. You're Feng Wu. Tao Shuang cried out. Eni said yes. Yes, it's her. I saw with my own eyes when she made that bet with Princess Mu at the city gates. That's right. She's Feng Wu. A hush fell over the crowd as soon as Eni said those words. It was only a moment ago when they had been trashing Feng Wu behind her back while Feng Wu herself was only a wall away from them. She must have heard everything. That was so embarrassing. Gong Sun Qing flew into a humiliated rage. She glared at Feng Wu. Did you hear what we said? Feng Wu found the question idiotic. What do you think? So, you did nothing when you heard what we said. That's because we were telling the truth. You're a good-for-nothing. Gong Sun Qing stared at Feng Wu with contempt. Do you have an old grudge against me or something? Feng Wu asked curiously. Why, you don't remember me? Gong Sun Qing was dumbfounded. Feng Wu was confused. Why should I remember you? Gong Sun Qing opened her eyes wide. Ew. Did you forget the little girl by the lotus pond 5 years ago? 5 years ago? A lotus pond. That did jog Feng Wu's memory. The little girl I kicked into the lotus pond for bullying my brother Xiaoqi? Tilting her head, Feng Wu studied Gong Sun Qing. That was you? The plump meatball? The plump meatball? Gong Sun Qing almost choked. She was widely regarded as a beauty now and people worshipped her. But to Feng Wu, she was just a meatball. Patting Gong Sun Qing's slim shoulder, Feng Wu said, Hey meatball, here's the thing. Chapter 770 A Bad Feeling. 770 A Bad Feeling. Patting Gong Sun Qing's slim shoulder, Feng Wu said, Hey meatball, here's the thing. Keep treating people like this and you won't have any friends left. I'm not your friend. Gong Sun Qing glared at Feng Wu. However, at that moment Feng Wu raised her hand. Whoosh! Little Phoenix showered the crowd with another round of fire. Everyone apart from Gong Sunqing was caught off guard. What are you doing? Gong Sunqing flared up. She tried to run out to help the others. To Gong Sunqing's disbelief, she couldn't throw off Feng Wu's hand. That's impossible. Gong Sunqing was baffled by the realization. Exactly how powerful was this Feng Wu? Shirsun and Shixian, Gong Sunqing's two friends, and Tao Shuangyi Dujin, everyone was caught inside a circle of fire. Of course they tried to fight back, but Chaoga was working with Little Phoenix. Thump, thump, thump. All 5 of them were on the ground in less than 3 minutes. Let go of me. Gong Sunqing struggled with all her might. To her disbelief, Feng Wu was so strong that she simply couldn't break free. Was Feng Wu really a cripple? Shirsun and the others were no match for Chaoga and Little Phoenix. Before long they were all rolling around on the ground, wailing loudly. Chaoga looked at Feng Wu, who nodded back at her. Chaoga's eyes lit up. Grabbing Shixian, Chaoga sucked all the spiritual essence out of the latter's headband before moving on to Shirsun, Tao Shuang. All the headbands were emptied, except for Gong Sunqing's. Gong Sunqing was shocked. They had been working hard and had hunted quite a few magical beasts. By now, everyone had 3 to 4 stars lit up. And Feng Wu had stolen their spiritual essence just like that. You! Gong Sunqing wanted to say something, but Feng Wu took her by surprise and hit her in the carotid artery on her neck with the side of her palm. Feng Wu was already a much more capable cultivator, and there was no way Gong Sunqing could dodge that sudden attack. Gong Sunqing's vision went dark. The last thing she saw was a shadow flitting past her. She then passed out. Feng Wu took away all the spiritual essence which Gong Sunqing had obtained from hunting. Xiao Wu, you've absorbed the spiritual essence, but why aren't your stars lighting up? Duan Chaoga asked in confusion. Feng Wu sighed. She wanted to light up all her stars. And she wanted to use the spiritual essence for her cultivation. But the cub had absorbed all the spiritual essence, and there was nothing she could do. Feng Wu was almost in tears. Poor Gong Sunqing and her friends. They had been robbed of their spiritual essence because they had talked trash about Feng Wu behind her back. That's not enough. I'm still mad. Chaoga stomped her foot. Feng Wu glanced at her. How about we do it again when they've lit up all 7 stars? That's a great idea. Chaoga was thrilled. It would be like reaping chives. They only had 1 harvest so far. All they needed to do was wait for the leaves to grow, and they would be able to harvest again. If Gong Sunqing heard their plan, she would have a heart attack. Chaoga had 4 stars already, but Feng Wu's headband remained dim. Xiao Wu, where are we going now? Chaoga asked. Feng Wu said the stars can wait. What's more pressing now is to find the frosty night beast. It has the heart of frost essence. Chapter 771, The Crucial Momen. 771, The Crucial Momen. But where are we going to find that frosty night beast? And more importantly, can we beat it? Feng Wu was silent. Just then, something howled in the distance. Feng Wu's stomach lurched. That sounded ominous. What was that? Feng Wu and Chaoga exchanged looks, and both turned in the direction of the sound. A snowy white magical beast jumped into sight, then ran toward them at full speed. That's a mean magical beast. What's going on? Seeing the intimidating beast with horns sticking out of its head, Chaoga was on edge. What was more, a candidate was being chased by the beast. It was a girl so slim that she looked like she could be blown away by the slightest breeze. The girl was in a wretched state as she staggered forward. She almost tripped more than once, but managed to regain her balance at the last moment. Seeing Feng Wu, she cried out, "Run! You people, run!" After that, she changed direction and led the ice fire beast away from them. Feng Wu had thought the girl would veer their way with the beast, for the crowd here might draw the beast's attention away. Once the beast was distracted, the girl might be able to escape danger. However, at the crucial moment of life and death, the thin girl chose to lure the ice fire beast away from them. Feng Wu found that very touching. Chaoga looked at Feng Wu, who nodded back at her. Stop right there. Chaoga ran after the beast and began to throw lances at it. Whoosh! Ice arrows appeared in Chowga's hands and she threw them at the beast. They missed the beast at first, but as Chowga picked up speed, the arrows began to hit their target. 1 arrow, 2 arrows, 3 arrows. As soon as the arrows touched the beast's back, they bounced off a red shield made of fire. The ice fire beast remained unscratched. As a result, Chowga couldn't draw the beast's attention away. Just then, thump! The thin girl tripped, fell into a pile of snow, and couldn't get back to her feet right away. The ice fire beast growled. It sounded pleased. After the long chase, it was finally going to have a taste of its prey. Roar! The ice fire beast roared and was ready to pounce on the girl. It was going to swallow her whole. Stop! At that critical moment, Feng finally caught up to the beast. Little Phoenix uttered a long and loud cry as flames spurted out of its beak. The fire successfully broke through the ice fire beast's defense system. What happened next was quicker than words could describe. Chowga threw out 7 ice arrows all at once. Whoosh! 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 They were aimed at the beast's forehead, eyes, and heart, and the arrows hit all their targets. Roar! The ice fire beast bellowed furiously. That hurt. These abominable humans. The ice fire beast had to face the reality. In order to reach the girl, it had to get rid of that sordid bird and that detestable teenage human girl. Turning around, it charged at Feng Wu. Feng Wu narrowed her eyes, but she didn't lash out right away, for she wanted to see what other tricks the beast had. Little Phoenix and Feng Wu broke into a fight with the ice fire beast right away. The ice fire beast naturally specialized in both ice and fire attributes, whereas Little Phoenix had the ice attribute and Feng Wu fire. It was an equal match. Fire and ice exploded around them. The air froze and burned at the same time. Raging flames and biting frost fell by turns. Chapter 773. There's got to be a way out. 773. There's got to be a way out. Feng Wu wanted to run, but she saw the ice fire beast head for Chowga. No, the beast was way too powerful. One smack and Chowga would die. Without hesitation, Feng Wu struck the ice fire beast hard in its back. The ice fire beast was ready to stomp Chowga to death when Feng Wu kicked it in the butt. That was outrageous. Roar! The ice fire beast forgot about Chowga and Jun right away. Instead, it pounced at Feng Wu. Once it killed the strongest of the 3, it would be able to take care of the other 2. The ice fire beast told itself this. Seeing the beast come her way, Feng Wu turned to run. Run, run, run. She had to lure the ice fire beast away, or Chowga and Jun would be dead for sure. Moreover, this magical beast belonged to Zone 2. It shouldn't be running wild to kill freely here in Zone 3. The wind brushed over Feng Wu's skin, flinging snow into her face. It was so cold that her bones hurt. But she couldn't stop. She had to run. She had to run as fast as she could. She had been careless. If she had joined hands with Chowga and the bird from the start, the beast wouldn't have gotten the chance to make a breakthrough. But now, her only option was to lure the beast away, then work from there. Feng Wu led the ice fire beast toward Zone 2. Keeping its gaze on Feng Wu, the ice fire beast galloped forward at its top speed, driven by its rage. The girl and the beast were both running as fast as they could in the snowfield. It was intense and perilous. Speed was a magical beast's advantage, and the ice fire beast was able to run a little faster than Feng Wu. It wasn't obvious at first, but as time passed, the distance between them grew shorter and shorter. Looking over her shoulder, Feng Wu saw that the 1000 m between them had been shortened to 800 m. At this rate, the beast would eventually catch up. What should she do? Various ideas popped into Feng Wu's head. She had to think of a way to get herself to safety before it caught up to her. The ice fire beast ran very fast. 700 m. 600 m. 500 m. Feng Wu gritted her teeth and kept running. Luck wasn't on her side. Before she knew it, daylight faded. Night was closing in. And it grew colder. The temperature in the snowfield plummeted. -30, -40, -50 degrees. It was freezing. Every breath she exhaled turned into white mist. Feng Wu looked over her shoulder again. The distance between her and the beast had been shortened to 200 m. Shit! Feng Wu's stomach lurched. As night set in, the wind howled and she was losing strength from the continuous running. The ice-fire beast, on the other hand, was indigenous to Proud Snowfield. The cold didn't affect it at all. If Feng Wu's estimation was right, the beast would catch up to her in 10 minutes. 10 minutes. 10 minutes. Looking into the distance, Feng Wu could see nothing but an endless snowfield. How despairing that view was. There was an option out there that could save her. She could hit the panic button. The moment she pressed it, she would be teleported out of this terrain. However, Feng Wu smiled bitterly. She had made a bet with Mu Yaoyao. If she didn't get into Imperial College, she would have to give her head to that girl. What was more, she needed to get in because of Jun Linyuan. Chapter 774. Is she going to die? 774. Is she going to die? What about her broken star piece? A stubborn look flickered in Feng Wu's eyes. No, she wouldn't give up. Never. Roar. The ice-fire beast was closing in on her. 100 m. 50 m. 30 m. 20 m. The ice-fire beast locked its gaze on Feng Wu. Feng Wu had been setting up the traps which she had used on the spiny frost beasts before, but the ice-fire beast was far more intelligent and wouldn't be tricked. Roar! The giant beast leapt up, then pounced at Feng Wu from behind. It cast an enormous shadow on the ground. Feng Wu tried to dodge. However, a long chain suddenly grew out of the ice-fire beast. That thick black chain had evolved from a black hair on its forehead. The chain flew out and caught Feng Wu right away. At that moment, Feng Wu finally knew what it felt like to be helpless and full of despair. There was a terrifying hook on the chain. It stabbed into Feng Wu's lower back, and with a jolt the ice-fire beast pulled the chain back. Feng Wu was dragged back until she was in front of the beast. Thump! 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 The ice-fire beast brandished its front paw at Feng Wu, who was within reach now. That hurt. The beast punched Feng Wu 3 times in a row, which made Feng Wu see stars. She spat out a mouthful of blood. She almost fainted from the blows. It hurt. She felt like she was dying, but if she gave up just like that, she really would be dead in no time. Summoning her strength, Feng Wu gathered her spiritual essence, grabbed the dagger that was hidden in her sleeve, and stabbed the ice-fire beast's forehead. Once infused with spiritual essence, the sharp blade glinted coldly and looked invincible. However, clank! Ice-fire beast smacked the dagger away with a sweep of its paw. The blade didn't even touch the beast. Thump! Ice-fire beast threw another punch, aiming at Feng Wu's head. It opened a gash on Feng Wu's smooth forehead. Blood ran down her face. That had to be painful as hell. Feng Wu's vision went dark and she could barely see. She felt as if she was drowning in a dark ocean and her head was filling up with water. Feng Wu knew that it came from the fear of death. Wait! The rabid beast then smelled Feng Wu's blood. It was sweet, scrumptious, and full of spiritual essence. The ice-fire beast could finally think straight again. Without hesitation, it followed its instinct and lowered its head. Whoosh! It buried its sharp fangs into Feng Wu's slender neck. Ouch! That hurt. Gurgle. Feng Wu could hear the beast sucking her blood. It was her blood. Feng Wu was tiny compared with the beast, and it could drain her in a few more gulps. Back in Imperial College, Grand Secretary Feng was leaning forward in his chair as he stared at the screen with the biggest frown. He was watching Feng Wu and the ice-fire beast. He had been watching since the chase and had been on edge the whole time. He was furious when he saw what the beast was doing to Feng Wu. Xiao Wu, hit the button. Now. Grand Secretary Feng jumped to his feet and stared at the screen. What button? Priest Wu, who had dozed off, was woken up. Rubbing his sleepy eyes, he looked curiously at the screen. What could alarm the vice principal of Imperial College so much? What Priest Wu saw made him open his eyes wide. What the hell? Chapter 776. The Pursuit. 776. The Pursuit. Xiao Wu had spiritual essence, and she was an outstanding cultivator. She was a cripple? Said who? Grand Secretary Feng took a deep breath. Who do you think should go in? You or me? Priest Wu rubbed his chin. Do you think that's really necessary? Grand Secretary Feng nodded. There's something too unusual about Proud Snowfield as the setting for the physical tryout this time. Something big is going to happen. I need to let His Majesty know. Grand Secretary Feng looked at Priest Wu. Someone needs to go to the Imperial Palace. You or me? Priest Wu said, I need to keep an eye on little Feng Wu. Grand Secretary Feng nodded. He then talked to Feng Wu directly. Xiao Wu, something's wrong with Proud Snowfield. Hit the panic button when you need to. Your life is the priority here. The message made Feng Wu's stomach lurch. So, Grand Secretary Feng had been watching her this whole time. He must have seen the perilous state she was in and had to be so worried about her. She would never hit that button, but to reassure the old man, Feng Wu nodded. All right. Meanwhile, she was still running at full speed. However, she was feeling weaker and weaker. The ice fire beast had stopped chasing Feng Wu. Instead, it sat down and began to absorb spiritual essence from the air, so as to move up to the next level. Magical beasts were naturally more powerful than human beings in their martial prowess. Not to mention that the ice fire beast was a level higher than Feng Wu. After this, it would be 2 levels higher. Before, Feng Wu was confident that she could lose the beast in a chase, but after drinking her blood, the ice fire beast was now so familiar with her smell that she would never be able to get away from it. The hair on Feng Wu's back stood up at that thought. But was she going to withdraw from the tryout? That had never been an option for her. And she was in. Feng Wu checked the map in her head. She was running toward a more remote area away from the red dots, which represented the other candidates. At the moment, her own red dot was all alone in the snowfield. All the other candidates felt like a world away. Wait. Feng Wu suddenly realized that there was something else on the map. A few blue dots. 1, 2, 3. There weren't many, no more than 10. And they came in different sizes. What were they? Making her own dot as the reference point, Feng Wu studied the blue dots. 5 kilometers northwest of her, there was a medium-sized blue dot, which was. All of a sudden, Feng Wu drew in her breath. She knew what those blue dots were. They had to be magical beasts. For that blue dot had to be the ice fire beast. Feng Wu's pupils contracted. So the blue dots were magical beasts more powerful than her. Did these blue dots exist on all the maps? Or was she the only one that could see them? Feng Wu pondered the question, but this wasn't the time to be curious. Her top priority now was to get rid of that ice fire beast. All of a sudden, an idea struck Feng Wu. Those blue dots. They weren't there for nothing. She knew what to do. Rubbing her forehead to help herself concentrate, Feng Wu dashed toward one of the blue dots as fast as she could. Chapter 777 Damn. 777 Damn. Feng Wu had picked that blue dot after careful consideration. It was slightly bigger than the one which represented the ice fire beast. And it was 100 kilometers from her, which was a reasonable distance. That dot it was then. Once her destination was determined, Feng Wu picked up speed and headed for it. Night had set in and the wind blew even harder. Feng Wu felt as if there was a fire burning inside her. But Feng Wu knew perfectly well that although the ice fire beast wasn't chasing her now, she was in no way out of danger. The sense of crisis hung over her head like the sword of Damocles. She didn't know when it would fall, but she was sure that she didn't have much time left before it did. Run, run, run. Thump. Feng Wu ran too fast and she lost her footing. She then began to roll down a slope. Luckily, the slope wasn't very tall and she reached the bottom in a moment. Slumping over a snowdrift, Feng Wu gasped for air. She felt too weak to even move a muscle. A fire seemed to be burning inside her, and the heat was spreading to all her limbs. It felt so hot. Feng Wu checked her own pulse. She almost cried. Because of the blood loss, evil energy had gotten into her system and cold air was rampaging inside her. In modern terms, she had a fever and her temperature had spiked over 40 degrees. Feng Wu felt so weak that she wanted to bury herself in the snow and sleep for as long as she wanted. But reality wouldn't allow her to do that. She was all by herself now and a lot of people outside were counting on her. She couldn't back down. Taking a deep breath, Feng Wu struggled to her feet. She was having a hard time thinking straight and could barely keep her balance. She would trip over her feet every few steps. After falling down into the snow again, Feng Wu flinched at the chill on her cheek. Patting her head to wake herself up, she scrambled to her feet again. She had quite a bit of medicine with her, but no antipyretic. It wasn't that she didn't know how to make it, but that she just never expected to need it one day. Moreover, in order to break free from the ice fire beast, Feng Wu had poured a peculiar potion down her throat. That potion was concocted by mixing a lot of ingredients with weird tastes together. Not only did it stink, it was also detrimental to one's health. Feng Wu had created it to set other people up, but as it turned out. However, it had helped her get out of the ice fire beast's jaws. So what if it tasted a little weird? But Feng Wu was well aware that her impaired state was directly caused by that potion. 50 km. 30 km. 10 km. Feng Wu stumbled and staggered, but she was getting closer and closer to her destination. She took another look at the map. Please don't let that blue dot go anywhere. After all the hardships she endured, she finally hauled her semi-functional body into the valley. Her savior, the other magical beast, couldn't leave now. Staring at the map, Feng Wu saw that the magical beast was slowly moving away. Seriously? Feng Wu's eyes popped. After everything she had done. Right at that moment. Rumble. Heavy footsteps came from behind her. Feng Wu looked over her shoulder. Shit. The ice fire beast was coming. After the breakthrough, the ice fire beast had ample spiritual essence. It looked invigorated and its speed had doubled. It spotted Feng Wu from hundreds of meters away. On the plain snowfield, Feng Wu was such an eye-catching target that she couldn't be missed. That stupid human girl. She was so dead. The ice fire beast stared at Feng Wu with bloodthirsty eyes. Chapter 778 Chase to Kill. 778 Chase to Kill. The ice fire beast charged at Feng Wu at an unbelievable speed. Shit. An alarm seemed to go off in Feng Wu's head. Run. Feng Wu was overwhelmed by a sense of crisis and knew right away that she wouldn't survive if she let the ice fire beast catch her. Without hesitation, Feng Wu summoned all her strength and ran as fast as she could. Run, run, run. She had never run at such a speed. But the ice fire beast had discovered her, and it was too late to run. The beast was gaining on her. So was death. Feng Wu's stomach lurched and she thought her heart was going to stop. Was she going to die just like this? In front of the screen, Priest Wu was worried sick. That girl. Why wouldn't she withdraw from the tryout? Hit the button. Now. Priest Wu sent a message to Feng Wu. The voice came out so loud that Feng Wu thought her eardrums had shattered. And it made her head spin. But withdraw from the tryout. Feng Wu shook her head. That had never been an option for her. There had to be a way out. There had to be. All of a sudden, an idea came to Feng Wu. Yes, she wouldn't be able to catch up with the other blue, regardless of what kind of magical beast it was, but she could somehow draw it to her. With bait big enough, it could be done. At that thought, Feng Wu shook the cub awake. Feng Tutu might be sleepy all the time, but it was a smart and reliable companion in a critical moment like this. All Feng Wu could use was her own blood. After smearing Feng Tutu's neck with her blood, she gave it some instructions, then sent it off. The ice fire beast caught up to her the moment the cub dashed off. Taking a deep breath, Feng Wu muttered an incantation. The next moment, the snow covered her, and she fell even deeper. The ice fire beast stared at the spot where Feng Wu had been a moment ago, a taunting smile on its face. That stupid human girl. Did she think she could run away? Die. The ice fire beast had very acute senses. Moreover, now that it had risen to level 7, its capability had doubled. Thump. It pounded the ground with all its might. In front of the screen, Priest Wu's eyes popped. He was worried sick. Feng Wu. Get out now. You're going to die. You really are. That's a level 7 spiritual grandmaster magical beast. Priest Wu shouted in Feng Wu's mind. Feng Wu drew in a breath. She couldn't afford the distraction anymore. Then she removed the headband given by Imperial College. Squeak! Priest Wu realized that although he could still see Feng Wu, he could no longer hear her voice. That was to say, she wouldn't be able to hear him either. Priest Wu was astonished. What on earth was the girl going to do? Priest Wu was exasperated, but he couldn't just drag Feng Wu out through the screen. All he could do now was stare at the screen nervously. Back in the snowfield, Feng Wu was hiding under a snowdrift. No matter where she hid, the ice fire beast seemed to be able to sense her in advance. It pounded on the ground continuously. And it was a level 7 spiritual grandmaster. Each blow created a 10m crater in the ground. And Feng Wu tried her best to dodge every time. She was able to narrowly get out of harm's way. Over and over again. Cold sweat rolled down Feng Wu's forehead as time went by. If one looked closely, they would notice that her face had turned ghastly pale. Chapter 779 A Turn for the Better. 779 A Turn for the Better. Feng Wu was ghastly pale. With the blood loss, she looked dreadful against the white snow. She was covered in cold sweat, but she was burning inside at the same time. The chill and the heat made Feng Wu feel like she was being roasted and frozen at the same time. Creak! She ground her teeth together, but couldn't stop them from chattering. But what else could she do? She was hanging on by the skin of her teeth and she couldn't afford any reckless moves. Boom! Another round of blows rumbled overhead. The ice fire beast was furious and gloating at the same time. As a matter of fact, if it exerted all its power, it would have caught Feng Wu already. However, the beast had grown proud after its breakthrough, and it was showing off its capability. Right now it acted like a cat playing with a mouse. It was going to taunt Feng Wu and scare her before dealing the final blow. Boom! There was another round of pounding over Feng Wu's head. As time went by, Feng Wu grew weaker and she felt dizzy. Her vision was going dark. It hurt. Feng Wu felt as if she had been torn in half. One side was cold and the other hot. She felt hot inside and cold outside. Cold sweat and hot sweat was coming out of her pores at the same time. It hurt. Boom! Another round of pounding. This time, Feng Wu had no strength left to dodge, and she had to take the assault with her own body. Feng Wu's bloodless face and shivering body finally emerged from under the snow. In the moonlight, the ice fire beast saw Feng Wu lying in the snow with her eyes closed. It couldn't tell if she was alive or dead. Blood was splattered on the snow around her. The red color was almost blazing against the snow. There was a greedy look in the ice fire beast's eyes as it studied the blood on the snow. Suppressing its urge, it slowly approached Feng Wu, one step at a time. Closer, closer. The ice fire beast could smell the fresh blood. SSSS. It stuck out its tongue and licked its lips. That was it. It was done pretending to be patient. It charged at Feng Wu and was ready to eat the human whole. It had a premonition. The human girl was spilling spiritual essence like a fountain. She was like a ripe fruit. Swallow her and the ice fire beast would enjoy another upgrade in its capability. Maybe it would become a level 8 now. The ice fire beast was thrilled. However, at that moment, there came a panicked cry and it was coming this way. It was in the ice fire beast's nature to be cautious. It looked up involuntarily in the direction of the voice. In the moonlight, a black the size of a palm was running this way at tremendous speed. And a giant magical beast was chasing it in a frenzy. The giant beast was very powerful, but the little thing in front of it was too nimble. It kept changing directions, throwing the magical beast off track. A Qilin beast. The ice fire beast was astonished. Qilin beasts formed a powerful community in Proud Snowfield. They had always lived in Zone 1 and were at the top of the food chain. Why would such a beast show up in Zone 2? Before the ice fire beast could figure it out, it saw that the Qilin beast was coming this way. Feng Wu had left the cub with explicit instructions and it knew what to do. Whoosh! The cub sprinted, leapt onto the ice fire beast's back, then climbed onto its head. It then gave vent to a torrent of abuse. Chapter 780 Surprise. 780 Surprise. Ah! Hit me and my dad will kill you. The cub shouted in the language of magical beasts. Your dad. This Qilin beast was only a cub. Despite its young age, it was savage, extremely powerful, and very proud. It wouldn't stand for any sort of provocation. Before the Qilin beast could reply, the ice fire beast flared up. It's Dad. Are you kidding me? The ice fire beast had no idea that the tiger cub belonged to Feng Wu, and only thought that the grudge was between the tiger cub and the Qilin beast. It bellowed, I'm not your dad. Get the hell off my head. It only wanted to get rid of the other two beasts so that they wouldn't try to take its prey. But the tiger cub took out an egg from the pouch around its neck. It was almost half the size of the cub's body. No, the Qilin beast screamed, but it was too late. Still sitting on the ice fire beast's head, the tiger cub aimed the egg at the tip of its horn. Just like a human being cracking a chicken egg. Crack. Dad, didn't you say you wanted a fried egg? Fry this one. The tiger cub patted the beast's head. The ice fire beast was furious. Since when did it want a fried egg? Enraged, flames rose from under the ice fire beast's skin. Sizzle. The broken egg on its head was instantly cooked, and really became a fried egg. But the ice fire beast had no idea what was happening on its head. Brother! Qilin beast cried out in disbelief. Its eyes popped. That was its little brother. Its parents had enjoined repeatedly before they left home this morning that it had to take care of its baby brother. But now, his brother had turned into a fried egg. The Qilin beast was infuriated. It went berserk. Its eyes turned bloodshot red as rage took over its mind. Instantly, ice arrows rose up into the air and flew at the ice fire beast. Dad! Dad! Help! Help! The tiger cub was so tiny that it could easily hide behind the ice fire beast. That only infuriated the Qilin beast further. Do you think your dad can save you? In your dreams. The Qilin beast shifted its murderous gaze to the ice fire beast. And more ice arrows smashed down. During the pursuit earlier, the tiger cub had been boasting about its spectacular, formidable dad, who was supposed to be powerful enough to wipe out the entire Qilin beast race. The Qilin beast already held a grudge against this dad because of that. And with what had just happened, it found the ice fire beast even more despicable. The ice fire beast was infuriated as well. It was going to have a quiet dinner of the human girl, but this Qilin beast just showed up out of nowhere and began to attack it. Did that Qilin beast think it was going to sit there and take the hits? The ice fire beast considered itself powerful enough to move into Zone 1 already. However, intimidated by the Qilin beast race, the ice fire beast could only grind its teeth. Qilin beast, you've been misled. That tiger cub isn't my son. I'm an ice fire beast. How can I have a tiger as a kid? Are you blind? The ice fire beast was so vexed. It was still a virgin. How come it was a dad all of a sudden? The Qilin beast smirked. Your tiger cub boasted about everything to me. Its mother was a silver tiger. Are you going to shirk your responsibility now? That's just ridiculous. The Qilin beast didn't reply, but went on attacking the ice fire beast. The ice fire beast lost its temper. I've had enough. This Qilin beast might be a cub, but it was from a superior race that dwelled in Zone 1 in proud Snowfield. Chapter 781 New Hope? 781 New Hope. The ice fire beast was furious. I was only playing nice because you're from Zone 1. Are you ever going to stop? After being teased by the tiger cub this whole time and seeing its little brother get fried, the Qilin beast had lost its senses. It was common for magical beasts to break into fights for no reason. Hence, thump, thump, thump. A fight broke out right away. Seeing the two finally exchange blows, the tiger cub let out a breath of relief. It jumped down from the ice fire beast and dashed into a snowdrift. The next time it showed up, it was next to Feng Wu. Roar! The cub boasted about its achievement to Feng Wu. But Feng Wu was lying in the snow, her skin damp and cold from sweating profusely. The cub nudged Feng Wu, but she didn't move. It nudged Feng Wu again but still got no response. Bewildered, The cub nudged Feng Wu repeatedly as it whined. Right now, Feng Wu felt as if her head was on fire. The fire then spread out and grew bigger. The fire spread from inside out and threatened to burn Feng Wu into ashes. The cub was worried sick. What should it do? The Qilin beast and the ice fire beast were fighting a short distance away. The wind picked up the loose snow from the ground and threw it into the air, along with some blood. The air itself smelled of danger. The cub found it too dangerous to stay here, but it was too little to carry Feng Wu away. It had no choice but to drag Feng Wu all the way to the foot of a snowdrift, then cover her up with a thick layer of snow. The cub walked around Feng Wu, so worried that it was in tears. What? The cub noticed the jade pendant hanging on Feng Wu's waistband. It glittered in the darkness. What was that? Following its instinct, the cub pulled the pendant off Feng Wu's waistband, then put it on the wound on Feng Wu's neck. It wondered if the pendant could help. The cub shivered a little in the chilly wind. It then found a comfortable spot in Feng Wu's arms and closed its eyes. It was still so young, and it had used up its spiritual essence to lure the Qilin beast here. The cub soon slipped into deep meditation. As for Feng Wu, it was as if a volcano was erupting inside her body, but at the same time she was freezing on the outside. An endless mountain range seemed to separate the inside from the outside, and it felt as if the two sides would never be compatible. Feng Wu couldn't move, but her mind had never been so clear. Was this terminal lucidity? Feng Wu had a bitter taste in her mouth. She had considered combining the spiritual energy of two attributes, but she had activated the elements of fire and earth but not ice. Without the ice element, she wouldn't be able to merge fire and water together. Feng Wu was full of utter despair when, all of a sudden, thump! Something snapped inside her. It was as if a thick layer of ice had cracked. The ice then grew thin and collapsed. That was what seemed to be going on in Feng Wu's dantian. Feng Wu thought she could see dots of white light flying around her. They felt like cold breath and looked like pretty snowflakes. Was she hallucinating? Feng Wu thought that she was imagining it because she was under the snow. She was fantasizing about having an ice attribute. But how can that possible? A wry smile appeared on Feng Wu's pale face. All of a sudden, the ice began to fly into her body. Chapter 782. Activate the ice attribute. 782. Activate the ice attribute. It was the tiniest amount but was enough to wake Feng Wu up. It was like a few drops of rain falling into a raging fire. What? Feng Wu's heart skipped a beat. What did that mean? Had she somehow activated a specialization in the ice attribute? But didn't the activation take place when one was young? Was it still possible for adults? Feng Wu was beyond astonished. She was so weak that she almost passed out from the excitement. After taking 3 deep breaths, Feng Wu was finally able to gather some strength. With much difficulty she sat up, then took out a crystal ball from her ring. It was used to examine one's spiritual essence. She pressed a palm to the crystal ball. Immediately 3 colors appeared in it. The fire attribute took up the biggest section, followed by the earth attribute. Between the red and the brown was a bluish-white belt. It hadn't been there before. Feng Wu's stomach lurched, and she felt a burst of pleasant surprise. The water attribute was blue in color, which made that bluish-white belt the ice attribute. Feng Wu was so excited. Normally, one had to work on their water attribute until they reached a certain stage before the ice attribute could be derived from it. But now, she had somehow activated the ice attribute directly. Feng Wu had to take a few deep breaths to absorb the good news. Holy shit! Talk about a blessing in disguise. The narrow escape from death was only a small price to pay in exchange for what she had gained. Taking another deep breath, Feng Wu activated her spiritual essence, directing the ice element into her body. Feng Wu was exceptionally lucky. Any other day she wouldn't have so much ice attribute energy to use. But now, she was in the middle of proud snowfield and was surrounded by an endless supply of ice. And what was even better, Feng Wu wouldn't have been able to consume much ice attribute energy before, but now, the heat inside her was like a bottomless pit, and no amount of ice seemed enough. It would be such a waste if Feng Wu didn't make good use of this opportunity. Without hesitation, Feng Wu sat up with much difficulty. The slightest move caused such excruciating pain, and she almost stopped breathing, but she still managed to sit up with her legs crossed. It took her several minutes just to get into position. Sweat covered her forehead. Crack! A noise made Feng Wu lower her head involuntarily. She noticed the jade pendant. It had been on her neck, sticking to the wound where the ice fire beast had bitten her. The cool jade wasn't freezing to the touch. Wait! Feng Wu spotted a crack on the pendant. It was a bluish-white color. The color of the ice element. Wait! Feng Wu's heart skipped a beat. Could it be that the activation of the ice attribute had something to do with this jade pendant? Was it possible? Feng Wu wanted to deny it, but a voice in her head kept telling her. Yes, that was it. It was all because of this jade pendant from Jun Linyuan. Shaking her head, Feng Wu stuffed the pendant back into her pocket. That could wait. Her top priority now was to absorb the ice attribute energy. Sitting still, Feng Wu activated her spiritual essence, gradually taking in the ice attribute energy through her skin, blood circulation, breathing. Feng Wu felt as if she had been split into two halves. She was hot inside and cold on the outside. And there seemed to be a wall between the two, stopping them from fusing with each other. Chapter 783 How's the girl doing? 783 How's the girl doing? The ice attribute energy gradually seeped into Feng Wu's body. It then met the fire attribute energy. Whoosh! There was a sizzling sound, which was expected when water met fire. But the ice attribute energy was much weaker than its fire counterpart, and it was used up almost as soon as it entered Feng Wu. However, Feng Wu was able to sense the surging spiritual essence during this process. She absorbed more, which was consumed, and the process was repeated all over again. Time passed without her knowing it. The sun rose, dispelling the darkness. Then darkness returned again. She lost track of time. Meanwhile, Priest Wu was worried sick in front of the screen. Grand Secretary Feng returned to find that the screen had gone dark. What happened? Priest Wu smiled bitterly. Xiao Wu took off her headband. We can't hear her. But what happened to the visual? Grand Secretary Feng glared at him. Priest Wu gave him a wry smile. She's underground. Come to think of it, that girl is so incredible. He then told Grand Secretary Feng what happened. Grand Secretary Feng's mouth fell open. The girl is practically a miracle worker. Grand Secretary Feng had thought he would lose Feng Wu for good, but the girl was able to open a new path. She had instructed the tiger cub to lure a Qilin beast to her location before instigating a fight between the two beasts, which was still ongoing. From the bait to the actual fight, so many things could have gone wrong and every step could have led to a complete failure. But Feng Wu had done it. That tiger cub is an awesome little thing too. Grand Secretary Feng shook his head with a wry smile. It had been sleeping in Feng Wu's pocket all this time and no one knew it could be such a great help in a critical moment like this. By the way, what did His Majesty say? Priest Wu asked. Grand Secretary Feng shook his head. The entrance of Proud Snowfield has closed and a lot of work will be involved if we want to open it again before the tryout ends. His Majesty is working on it. He then checked the screen on the left for the current rankings. The first had changed to Yu Minji. Xin Yuan Yi was second. And Gong Sun Qing was third. Oh! He read all the 200 names. Feng Wu wasn't there. Grand Secretary Feng smiled bitterly. When was that girl going to come out of the snow? Outside Imperial College. Many were discussing animatedly about the change in the rankings. Yu Minji is first now. What's so surprising about that? Where else should the sacred sun be? Princess Muyaya fell out of the rankings the other day for some unknown reason, but she's making her way back up. She's already 10th. Speaking of which, Miss Gong Sun is so impressive. She fell out of the first 200 the other day, but she's already third now. That Feng Wu, on the other hand, never made it into the rankings. It seems she's really a good-for-nothing. Of course she is. She's always been a cripple. No one expected otherwise. Hey, do you know Duan Chaoga, that friend of Feng Wu's? What do you think? She's like Feng Wu's most loyal minion. Look, Duan Chaoga is 7th. Wow, that's really something. Duan Chaoga is 7th and Feng Wu isn't even in the first 200. If Duan Chaoga makes it into Imperial College and Feng Wu doesn't, oh god, Feng Wu will be so mad. Chapter 784 The Peril Godly Empress Doctor. 784 The Peril Godly Empress Doctor. The rankings on the screen outside Imperial College were updated every hour. After each update, the new rankings would be sent to all the major families right away. Northern Feng Mansion. Lady Northern Feng heaved a long sigh as she read the latest report. Feng Sun looked at her in bewilderment. Mother, what was that for? Lady Northern Feng said, what do you think? I'm worried about your sister. If you ask me, she should never have taken part in that tryout in the first place. One should always work at what they're good at and avoid their weak points. Cultivation and spiritual essence weren't your sister's forte at all, but she just had to go. Feng Sun tilted his head and his eyes darted around. What are you thinking? Lady Northern Feng asked. Feng Sun said, if I can give her a hand. Of course you can. What are you waiting for? Lady Northern Feng cast a stern look at Feng Sun. Do I need to remind you that she's your sister? Feng Sun waved his hands. I know she's my sister. I'm just not sure if it's a good idea to help her with getting into Imperial College. We can decide that later. Just help her now. Lady Northern Feng pounded her fist on the table. Feng Sun nodded. I'll go get Boss June. Back in Proud Snowfield. While Feng Wu hid underground, the Qilin Beast and the Icefire Beast tore at each other's throat. The fierce battle had attracted a lot of the candidates' attention. For the first time in days, smoke rose from the snowfield. After a few days of searching, more candidates had found each other. Right now, teams had formed in Proud Snowfield. Yuminji had entered the central area as soon as the tryout started, and no one had spotted him since. Hence, the most capable team at the moment was built around Xianyuanyi. The team members included Xianyuanyi Feng Hai, Luozhan, and some other candidates including Mu Yaoyao. And the second team was led by Gong Sun Qing. Shi Xian, Tao Shuang Yini, and Du Jian were among the members. Ning Chenxi had his own team as well. Word is there's a battle in Zone 2, and a fierce one. I'd love to go have a look. Are you sure? I don't think we're capable enough to go there yet. How about we join hands and go in together? Many agreed to the idea. In the end, dozens of candidates formed new teams and headed for Zone 2. Feng Wu had no idea of the approaching newcomers. Right now, she was still hiding under the snow. Once the ice attribute energy entered her dantian, it was transformed into spiritual essence and circulated around her body. Her focus at the moment was solely on her cultivation. The ice attribute energy kept seeping in before running through her channels in the form of spiritual essence. It was an addition to the fire attribute energy. As the ice attribute energy worked its way in, Feng Wu could sense her body being enhanced. And to her excitement, the two kinds of energy began to merge. No matter how much ice attribute energy entered her body, it would be melted down. Feng Wu had brought some spiritual stones with her. Whenever her spiritual essence ran out, she would draw on the top-grade spiritual stones. Luckily, she had dug out quite a few spiritual stones from underneath the Feng Manor. They were all stored in her ring. 1, 2, 3. Once the spiritual stones were drained of spiritual essence, they turned to ash, which Feng Wu would scatter on the ground. Absorb the ice attribute energy, work it into her body, and turn it into spiritual essence. Chapter 785 Out of Danger. 785 Out of Danger. The spiritual essence would then merge with the fire attribute energy. Feng Wu would then draw on the top-grade spiritual stones to recover before starting the process again. The cycle went on and on. Although she didn't make any progress in her cultivation level, Feng Wu was getting stronger with this cultivation cycle. Time crawled by. Feng Wu stopped her cultivation when she sensed that she had attained perfection at her current level. Slowly she opened her eyes. The debilitating feeling was gone. She was back to normal. She had finally consolidated her foundation, which had been a little shaky lately with how fast she was making progress. Feng Wu rubbed Feng Tutu in her pocket. Thanks to this little guy, who had lured that Qilin beast here at the critical moment, she was still alive. Brushing the snow away, Feng Wu saw daylight again. After spending days in the dark, the white snow stung her eyes a little. Feng Wu raised a hand to shield her eyes from the light. She only put her hand down after she got used to the light outside again. It was a mess in the snowfield. The ice fire beast was lying in a pool of blood. Its chest had been slashed open and its entrails were everywhere, making for a gory scene. But it wasn't dead yet. It was staring at Feng Wu, could no longer pose a threat. Instead, the light in its eyes was fading. Feng Wu then checked the other side. The Qilin beast didn't look any better. It was lying less than 10 meters away from the ice fire beast. There was a gash on its neck which had almost decapitated it. Its head was barely attached to its body. It made a raspy noise when it spotted Feng Wu, but couldn't utter a proper sound. Grand Secretary Feng and Priest Wu watched with open mouths. Even this is possible. The two old men exchanged looks of amazement. She had lured the Qilin beast over and hidden in the snow, and was now coming up to clear the mess afterward. By clearing up the mess, Feng Wu crouched down, took out a dagger, and whoosh! She cut a horn off the ice fire beast's head. Arg! The ice fire beast screamed and glared at Feng Wu. These cruel, despicable human beings. Feng Wu smiled a little. Are you accusing me of being cruel and despicable? Well, it's the law of the jungle. After that, she raised the blade and cut off the remaining horn. There were 2 horns on the ice fire beast's head, known as the fire dragon horn and the ice dragon horn respectively. They contained all the beast's achievements in cultivation. Feng Wu specialized in both the ice and fire attributes, and the 2 horns would benefit her greatly. You'll die without ice attribute energy. Mwahaha! The ice fire beast glowered at Feng Wu. Blue veins popped on its forehead and its face was twisted with rage. Feng Wu raised a hand and a ball of fire appeared on her palm. The ice fire beast watched in bewilderment. However, to its amazement, it saw the ball of fire then become encased in an ice cube. The cube wrapped around the fire like a protective lampshade. No, the ice fire beast stared at Feng Wu so hard that its eyes popped. That was impossible. The beast couldn't believe it. The girl hadn't had the ice attribute energy in her when it had sucked her blood. I guess I have you to thank. Feng Wu darted an indifferent glance at the beast. Without you, I probably would have never been able to activate the ice attribute. Chapter 786 Feeling Good. 786 Feeling Good. No. The ice fire beast glared at Feng Wu and wouldn't look away. It shook its head repeatedly. Blood poured out of the holes where the horns used to be. The ice fire beast spat out a mouthful of blood, convulsed violently and died. It refused to close its eyes. It was still staring at Feng Wu with a twisted face in its very last moment. In front of the screen, Grand Secretary Feng and Priest Wu exchanged amazed looks yet again. Priest Wu asked, "Ice attribute?" Grand Secretary Feng said, "Yes." Priest Wu asked, "Can it happen to adults?" Grand Secretary Feng said, "Not normally." But Feng Wu had done it. Just then footsteps came from outside. Grand Secretary Feng and Priest Wu switched the camera focus right away, and the screen now showed Xin Yuanyi. A tall, thin old man in a neat white robe walked in, looking almost ethereal. He greeted Grand Secretary Feng with a smile as soon as he entered the room. "Mr. Feng, have you been here every day?" It was the elderly head of the Xinyuan family, and one of the 7 members of the education board, Xinyuan Kuan. "I have." Grand Secretary Feng nodded, then gestured at Xinyuan Kuan to sit down. Seeing his grandson on the screen, Xinyuan Kuan smiled even more cheerfully. "Have you been observing Air?" Grand Secretary Feng nodded. Xinyuan has been quite impressive. Xinyuan Kuan gloated, which didn't match his otherworldly demeanor. Stroking his goatee, he feigned a look of resignation. Not impressive enough, apparently. He's still second. What a pity. Priest Wu rubbed his chin. Not necessarily. Xin Yuan Kuan looked as if he was confused. How so? Priest Wu cursed the cunning old man in his head. The old fox was doing this on purpose. However, he still answered the question. The sacred son might be first in the physical tryout, but he did very poorly in the written exam. We can't say for sure that he'll be first. Xin Yuan Kuan rubbed his chin, as if he was lost in thought, but his eyes flickered. He then waved his hand. No, that can't be. The sacred son is as famous as His Royal Highness. There's no way my heir will be able to surpass him. Priest Wu vented his sarcasm inwardly. If that's the case, cut the crap already. However, in order to keep Xin Yuan Kuan's attention away from Feng Wu, Priest Wu had to find every excuse to compare Xin Yuanyi with Yuminji. Of course it's possible. Anything is possible. We'll never know before the final results are out. Priest Wu gave a double-edged reply. In fact, Priest Wu found Feng Wu much more promising than Xin Yuanyi. Grand Secretary Feng had warned Priest Wu already. For some special reason, Feng Wu's recovery of her cultivation ability couldn't be made public yet. It had to stay a secret. Priest Wu grinned at Xin Yuan Kuan. To him, first and second place in the exam should belong to Feng Wu and Yuminji. There was no hope for Xin Yuanyi. However, old man Xin Yuan here took the bait. You really think my heir has a chance? Yes, of course. Everyone has a chance. Have faith. Priest Wu smiled like a fox. Xin Yuan Kuan waved his hands again, feigning modesty. You flatter me. Come to think of it, heir really has great talent in martial arts. And he did pretty well in the written exam too. Ha 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 ha. Chapter 787 Exposed? 787 Exposed. Old man Xin Yuan might try to sound modest, but he failed to hide the satisfaction in his voice. Grand Secretary Feng darted a look at the guy. No one there was nearly as talented as Feng Wu. The girl could activate a second attribute at her current age. And Feng Wu was unmatched in her performance in the written exam. She was the first candidate in history to achieve full marks. Grand Secretary Feng casually darted another look at Xin Yuan Kuan. Buddy, you'll see. Oh, by the way. Xin Yuan Kuan feigned an indifferent tone. How about we take a look at that Yuminji? What's he up to at the moment? The old man was really here to sound them out. Grand Secretary Feng knew that the top candidate each year would be rewarded with special cultivation resources. The fact that even someone as experienced as Xin Yuan Kuan was interested in the reward was proof enough of how valuable it was. Grand Secretary Feng darted a glance at Xin Yuan Kuan. The sacred son made an agreement with the college before he went in. All visual surveillance of him is off-limits. Xin Yuan Kuan rubbed his chin. He had heard rumors of it, but it still displeased him to be rejected outright. What about Feng Wu? Let's have a look at her. Xin Yuan Kuan changed his target. Priest Wu and Grand Secretary Feng exchanged looks. He wanted to see Xiao Wu? No way. The girl was taking her reward from that ice-fire beast even as they were speaking. If Xin Yuan Kuan saw it, he would be alarmed and would probably keep an eye on Feng Wu from now on. The Xin Yuan family was well acquainted with the Zhou family, and Xin Yuan Kuan was also a close friend of Zhou He. Xiao Wu was the reason Zhou He was dead. Therefore, the girl couldn't be exposed no matter what. At that thought, Grand Secretary Feng turned him down. That girl has long lost her cultivation ability, and she's not even in the first 200. Why do you want to look at what she's doing? Priest Wu chimed in. And she's a girl and could be swimming or taking a bath as we speak. That's highly inappropriate for us old men to watch. You old bat. Embarrassed, Xin Yuan Kuan tried to make an excuse. I'm curious, that's all. No, you're not. You're worried that Feng Wu will threaten Xin Yuanyi's ranking. Are you serious? The girl isn't even in the first 200. Forget it. According to the most updated information, only the names of the first 200 candidates were on the screen, but Grand Secretary Feng had the clearance level to see the full list. And he scrolled down the list. All 900 candidates were ranked according to their scores. Of the original 1,000 candidates, 100 had withdrawn because of the dangers they had run into. Of the remaining 900 candidates, Feng Wu was ranked last. Even someone as composed as Xinyuan Kuan couldn't suppress his laughter when he saw the rankings. Grand Secretary Feng and Priest Wu both frowned. Xiao Wu had absorbed the spiritual essence of both the Ice Fire Beast and the Qilin Beast, but because she had removed her headband, the stars weren't lit. Otherwise, she would be at the top of the list. Xinyuan Kuan had no idea what the other two old men were thinking. Stroking his beard, he smiled wryly. The first in the written exam is last in the physical tryout. That's a first. Xinyuan Kuan left the room still chuckling. Feng Wu had no idea what was going on outside, nor was she aware of the harsh comments about her. Right now, she was focused on absorbing every last bit of the spiritual essence coming out of the Ice Fire Beast. Chapter 788 A Great Harves. 788 A Great Harves. The spiritual essence was dissipating fast. If Feng Wu didn't act quickly enough, it would soon disappear into thin air. Therefore, Feng Wu woke the cub and little phoenix up, and got them to absorb the spiritual essence along with her. The girl, the cub, and the bird formed a triangle around the Ice Fire Beast and feasted on the spiritual essence, and they didn't stop until it ran out 15 minutes later. After that, Feng Wu turned to that Qilin Beast. With its head barely attached to its body, the beast stared at the tiger cub with a despairing look in its eyes. This cub was the culprit in this whole thing. The tiger cub had lured the Qilin Beast out and instigated a fight between the two beasts. Then, it wasn't your dad. Seeing that the tiger cub was very close to the human girl, and that it was even absorbing the Ice Fire Beast's spiritual essence, the Qilin Beast finally realized what had happened. It stammered out those words in broken beast language, feeling utterly betrayed. The tiger cub looked back at the Qilin Beast with an innocent look in its eyes and shook its head. Of course not. The Qilin Beast was shocked. So it had been tricked by this abominable tiger cub. It wanted to cut the cub into pieces. Its gaze then shifted from the cub to Feng Wu. Her blood smelled so good. Staring at Feng Wu with a greedy look in its eyes, the Qilin Beast said to the cub in a matter-of-fact tone, "You do me a favor." The cub looked at it in bewilderment. The Qilin Beast swallowed in pain, then stared at Feng Wu. "Kill her and give her blood to me?" Instinct made the Qilin Beast struggle for its life. Somehow, it knew that it would survive if it could eat the human girl. Had it known better, had it known that the human girl was hiding in the snow, it would have shared the girl with that Ice Fire Beast. She would have been dead by now. Feng Wu recognized the murderous look in the Qilin Beast's eyes. What is it saying? Feng Wu didn't understand the language. It said, "Kill you, drink your blood." While the cub was still gesturing with its paws, little Phoenix, who was the more intelligent one, translated for Feng Wu. And if it knew that you were hiding in the snow, it wouldn't have fought with the Ice Fire Beast. It would have shared you with the Ice Fire Beast and they could eat you together. Little Phoenix broke the cruel news to Feng Wu. Feng Wu was speechless. Luckily, the cub had dragged her into a pit, or she would have been eaten up by now. Feng Wu went up to the Qilin Beast, crouched down and stared at it coldly. "I didn't mean to get you involved and I was sorry that you almost got decapitated. I was going to treat your wound." The beast might be beyond saving for other doctors, but not Feng Wu. She could have saved this Qilin Beast cub, but your worst decision was to express your will to kill me at this moment. Feng Wu looked into the Qilin Beast's pleading yet angry and agitated eyes. "I know you're pissed and you may even promise not to kill me afterward, but," Feng Wu smiled, "I know the story of the farmer and the snake. You." The Qilin Beast spoke its own language, but it could understand what Feng Wu was saying. Chapter 789 Men in Black. 789 Men in Black. It stared at Feng Wu with unblinking eyes. Finally, the Qilin Beast spat out a mouthful of blood before collapsing on the ground. It died with its eyes open. A pot appeared in Feng Wu's hand, together with a tube. She stuck one end of the tube into the Qilin Beast's neck, and left the other end in the pot. The Qilin beast's blood then flowed into the pot through the tube. It would be such a waste if we let such precious material rot here. Once the tube was set, Feng Wu found a flat area to put the pot down, then beckoned little Phoenix and the cub over to absorb the spiritual essence of the Qilin beast. Feng Wu had quite a few spiritual stones left, but in order to absorb the spiritual essence from them, they had to go through an extraction process first. The Qilin beast's spiritual essence, on the other hand, existed separately to begin with, and was much faster to absorb. It was efficient and much less wasteful. If Grand Secretary Feng and Priest Wu hadn't stopped Xinyuan Kuan earlier, and had let the guy switch the camera focus back to Feng Wu, this would be what they would have seen. All would be exposed if that happened. They drained the Qilin beast of all its spiritual essence in 15 minutes. Little Phoenix and the cub both fell asleep. Feng Wu knew that both would be able to make another breakthrough after they woke up, and they would be incredible. Feng Wu smiled at that thought. With a wave of her hand, she put the two pets away in her ring. And the pot full of Qilin blood was also stored there. Feng Wu had built a small storage room about 5 square meters in size inside the ring space, where she put all her bits and bobs. As for the rest of the ring space, well, it was her beautiful master's personal space and she wouldn't mess it up with all the sundry goods. Once that was done, Feng Wu torched the dead bodies of the two beasts. She left only after they were burnt to cinders. Shortly after she left, all of a sudden, apparition-like figures appeared on the spot where Feng Wu had been standing. They were all dressed in black. Black headscarves, black masks, black robes, black trousers, and black shoes. These people seemed to suck in all the light around them. They weren't students of Imperial College, which was why the system didn't detect them. A battle took place here. The head of this team of 10 was a slender hitman. Staring at the embers, he frowned a little. The battle was between two magical beasts, but I see signs of Feng Wu. A short man went down on all fours and snuffled loudly in the snow. He followed the scent and headed all the way toward a pile of snow. Before long, he began to dig into the ground until he reached a hole. Feng Wu was hiding here earlier. This team of men in black uniforms were professionals. Both their tones and their movements sent chills down one's spine. It was as if they weren't talking about a real person but a corpse. Feng Wu, who was walking in a valley, sneezed all of a sudden. Achoo! She rubbed her nose. Was someone talking about her behind her back? Back to the other side. The lanky team leader looked down at the short member. 10, are you sure? Yes, Captain. The eyes of the teenager addressed as 10 glinted. How can you be so sure? Do I need to remind you that by successfully completing this task, our team Blade will be set for the rest of the year? The team leader stared at 10 with a savage look in his eyes. Chapter 790 Winter is coming. 790 Winter is coming. I can detect her scent here and it's still quite fresh. That is to say, she hasn't been gone for too long. 10 returned his captain's gaze, his voice full of confidence. She was able to live through a fight between two magical beasts. She doesn't look like a cripple to me. The team leader grinned ominously. 2 said in a casual tone, a cripple wouldn't have been able to stay alive in Zone 2 for 3 days. That alarmed all the other members. The team leader grinned. The employer made a side note on the contract, and suspects that she has regained her cultivation ability. Guys, once this job is done, we're set for a whole year. Are you in or not? We're in. Good. We're moving out. They had been flying low for 3 days, searching every inch from Zone 5 to Zone 2. Finally, they were closing in on Feng Wu. Feng Wu had no idea that a team of hitmen was coming after her, let alone that this team was able to evade detection by the system and enter Proud Snowfield without raising the alarm. Feng Wu checked the map in her head. She frowned a little. If she was guessing right, a team of over 50 members was headed for Zone 2 in the direction of where the two beasts had fought. Feng Wu was glad that she had torched the remains of the Qilin beast and the Icefire beast. Otherwise, the others might look into it and there would be a lot of trouble. She had 2 options now. One was to meet up with Chowga in Zone 3. They would then go to the central area together to find the Frosty Night beast. The other option was to enter the central area alone, where she would find the beast, get the Heart of Frost essence, then go and get Chaoga. Feng Wu shook her head when she recalled Chaoga's capability as a level 2 spiritual grandmaster. The Frosty Night Beast was too dangerous. Feng Wu would have to look after Chaoga, and might be distracted if Chaoga went with her, which would put Chaoga in even more danger. Thus Feng Wu decided to go by herself. Once that was decided, Feng Wu ducked her head against the wind and snow and hastened on. She ran into a sudden snowstorm on the way. The weather wasn't suitable for traveling anymore. Seeing that it was getting late, Feng Wu found a leeward slope, dug a hole in the snow, then crawled into it. It was a dark, windy night. Together with the raging snowstorm and the fact that she was on the edge of Zone 1, where formidable magical beasts dwelled, her life would be in danger if she pressed on. Feng Wu closed her eyes and began to cultivate once she sat down in the hole. After absorbing the spiritual essence of the Icefire Beast and the Qilin Beast, Feng Wu needed time to process it so that it could be transformed into spiritual essence that she could use. Otherwise, it would only pile up in her energy channels and become a burden on her health. It was the same as drinking a potent tonic and not digesting it. Little Phoenix and the cub were much luckier. Once they settled down in their dormant states, their bodies automatically started to work, digesting the spiritual essence they had absorbed. That was the main difference between the cultivation methods of magical beasts and human beings. After circulating the spiritual essence around her body 3 times, Feng Wu was able to digest most of it. Just then she heard faint voices outside. "Captain, the trail stops here." I followed Feng Wu's scent all the way until we reached this spot. It has disappeared. With the wind and snow, any traces of her would have been blown away immediately. "Are you sure Feng Wu was here?" "Yes. Upon my life." The conversation continued. Chapter 791's right here. 791 she's right here. Feng Wu woke up in the hole as soon as she picked up on the conversation. Someone was hunting her down. And they had followed her here. What was going on? Wait. Ten let out a soft cry. "What?" I caught Feng Wu's scent again." "You think?" "Oh. Ten, are you sure?" "Yes." The team leader trusted Ten's expertise in reconnaissance, and he gave the order right away. "Everyone start looking. Search everywhere within a 5 kilometers radius." "Yes." Feng Wu slowed down her breathing and adjusted her body functions to the lowest level possible. She was practically in a vegetative state. Despite her inactive body, her brain was spinning. Someone wanted her dead. And judging from the footsteps, there were 10 of them. They were all advanced cultivators. Level 5 spiritual grandmasters at least. Who sent them? How did they get into Proud Snowfield? Feng Wu was as inert as a stone and her heartbeat was barely detectable. It would be very difficult for those people to find her. The team gathered up after a short while. "Captain, I didn't find the target." "Captain, I didn't find the target." "Captain, I didn't find the target." 8 members came back with the same report. But that didn't settle Feng Wu's mind. For some unknown reason, she knew that the scout who had detected her scent would report otherwise. She was right. "She's here." All eyes were on 10. 7 said, "No, she's not." 10, "Yes, she is." 7 asked, "Where then?" 10 smirked. "You're practically looking at her." The others stared at 10. 10 grinned and pointed at the snowfield they were standing on. "She's right here under the snow. I can sense her." Feng Wu. She was on guard. The guy had discovered where she was hiding. What kind of skill was that? Luckily, Feng Wu had activated the ice attribute, and with both the fire and ice energy, she was able to melt the snow and build a long tunnel underground. Then she could move around easily in the snow. Feng Wu crawled on all fours, moving as slowly and carefully as a cautious gecko. Because of that 10 with his acute nose, Feng Wu had to be extra careful. If they caught her, Feng Wu had a hunch that these people would be worse news than that Qilin beast. The area they stood on was over 1,000 square meters in size, and it took them a while to search every inch. Roughly 15 minutes later, they reported back to their captain, who was waiting by a snowdrift in the center of the area. "Captain, the target isn't here. Captain, the target isn't here. Captain, the target isn't here." All 8 members came back with the same result again. "Have you checked everywhere?" The team leader frowned. "Yes, every inch and as deep as 10 m underground. She isn't here." "The same with me. The same with me." All eyes were on 10 again. The team leader also looked at 10. "What do you say now?" "I can still detect her scent. She's here." Seeing that the others wouldn't believe him, 10 was a little on edge. "Except she's not." 7 snorted. "Apart from pits, tunnels, and water, the only thing underground is snow." "Yes, that's what I found too." Chapter 792 Deception. 792 Deception. All of a sudden, 10 turned his sharp gaze on the rest of the team. "What did you say?" "And nothing. Pits, tunnels, and water?" 10 gave them a stern look. "How can there be water underground?" Everyone was astonished and enlightened. That was right. On a stormy night like this, the temperature had dropped so dramatically. All water should have frozen. "Where?" 10 bellowed. The other team members jumped at his voice, but then realized what was wrong. Without hesitation, 7 led him to the spot. "Here." They searched in unison and found a small opening underneath. After some digging, they found what they had been searching for. The opening of the tunnel had smooth edges and was wide enough for just one person. The water had already frozen into ice. But 10 frowned after touching the ice. "It hasn't been frozen for long. Feng Wu's scent is here and very fresh." The others exchanged looks of embarrassment. "This is the spot where I detected water. This is the spot where I detected water." Several team members spoke in turn. The team leader's face went livid, because if they were to draw a line through all the spots where they had detected water, they would find a long tunnel running from south to north. Still unconvinced, the team leader went up to one of the spots and dug down. And there really was a tunnel. Feng Wu was right here. 10 stared at the snowdrift in the center of the area. And they had been talking by it. That was to say, Feng Wu had heard everything they said. "We must find her and take her out. Otherwise, our employer will be exposed." The team leader's eyes glinted. "If we can't kill her in Proud Snowfield, we'll be facing damages too high for us to pay." He stared at 10 as he spoke. For 10 really had the ability to locate Feng Wu. 10 narrowed his eyes. "She hasn't gone too far. Move." The team set off as soon as they could. With the tunnel made from her fire and ice energy, Feng Wu was able to get away from the area. Once she was over a kilometer away, she jumped out of the snow and began to run. Luckily, under the cover of night and the snowstorm, visibility was very poor. One couldn't see a thing a kilometer away. Once she was out of the tunnel, Feng Wu quickly erased all her tracks before running in the direction of Zone 1. She had no idea who sent those men in black, but she was alarmed by their skills in searching and tracking. Feng Wu pulled out a sledge and quickly slid away across the snow without leaving a trace. The team known as Blade arrived at the scene shortly afterward. 10 led the team and he pointed at the hole. "Here is where the target went off-grid again." The others exchanged looks of bewilderment. "The target was able to escape from us when we came at her from all directions, which says a lot about her capability and intelligence. We need to be more careful," the team leader said in a stern and alarmed voice. He then turned to 10. "Which direction?" 10 specialized in tracking. He went down on all fours and snuffed around, then lifted his head looking confused. Everyone looked at him in bewilderment. The team leader frowned. "Can you not find her?" 10 shook his head. "I can detect her scent in 3 directions." The team leader said, "There are only 4 directions in total, and you can smell her in 3. 10 looked as displeased as his leader. "The target has realized we're tracking her. She has excellent counter-reconnaissance abilities and she's trying to throw us off track with deceptive tricks." Chapter 793 Ambush. 793 Ambush. Feng Wu moved swiftly in the snowstorm and headed directly for Zone 1. She had indeed split her tracks into 3. Little Phoenix, the cub, and she herself were running in 3 different directions. Both pets had been smeared with her blood, making sure that Ten could smell her scent. She was right. The team leader stared at Ten. Which one? Ten closed his eyes to heighten his senses, but shook his head in the end. I can't say for sure. Which direction is the most likely then? North. Good. The team leader narrowed his eyes and made a decision. 2-5-10. You 3 follow me to the north. 3-6-9 to the south. 4-7-8 to the west. Once the tasks were assigned, Blade moved out. They ran into the snowstorm after their targets. 10 grew more certain as they moved on. The target is in this direction. The team leader was elated. Good. The night was dark and the wind howled. It was the darkest hour before dawn. Standing on a mountain peak, Feng Wu could see the enemy that was chasing her. However, the blue dots representing magical beasts were still a long distance away. At the current speed, she would be outrun in 10 minutes. A solemn look flickered in Feng Wu's eyes. She couldn't just stand around and wait for her doom. She had to save herself. Zone 1 was right ahead, and she spotted a dilapidated temple. In this world of ice and snow, even a worn-down temple could bring hope. Feng Wu entered the temple without hesitation. The outside of the temple was in disrepair. This lone building in the middle of the snowfield threatened to fall down at the slightest breeze. However, after she walked in, Feng Wu saw that someone had cleaned it up. Not only was there a stove and firewood, she also found some rice and flour in a bucket. If she was guessing right, this place had been used as a temporary hunting lodge. Feng Wu smiled a little as she examined the makeshift kitchen. Other candidates couldn't bring many supplies in with them, but not her. For instance, all her potions were stored in her ring. After taking a quick tour of the kitchen, Feng Wu left the temple. But she didn't go far. Instead, she lay in wait under a snowdrift a few steps away from the temple. From that angle, Feng Wu could see the window, and she had already poked a hole in the window paper. She had the best view. She believed that those people would come after her very soon. As expected, in less than 10 minutes, footsteps came from the other side. "Captain, there's a house," one of them cried out in pleasant surprise. After a 3-day chase in the snow without rest, even these capable hitmen wanted a roof over their heads and a fire to warm their food. 10 frowned. 5, it's not time to eat yet. 5 was disgruntled. 10, can we at least continue the pursuit on a full stomach? We've been running for 3 days without rest and had to survive on rock-hard pancakes and snow. I'm not sure if we can survive for long if this goes on. 10 sulked but didn't say another word. The team leader asked 10, anything new on the target? 10 frowned. Her scent has grown fainter and it's getting harder to track her. The team leader looked up at the sky, then shook his head. The snowstorm is getting heavier, and we won't be able to travel in these conditions. We still have 4 days left. Let's take a break inside. Chapter 794 A Perfect Plan. 794 A Perfect Plan. The captain had spoken and the rest of them had to obey. Moreover, everyone except for 10 wanted to get some rest inside. Hiding in the snow pit, Feng Wu watched as the men entered the temple. Only then did she let out a breath of relief. She had held her breath in order to avoid being detected by 10. Looking at the closed door and the orange flames through the window, Feng Wu smiled a little. She rejoiced at her good luck. Luckily, she had cleaned up all her wounds and changed into new clothes, or 10 might actually have caught her scent just then. Feng Wu was almost sure that her blood was the reason that 10 had been able to track her. Inside. They saw the inside of the temple after the fire was lit. Not only was there a bedroom, the place came with a kitchen as well. And there was rice, flour, and firewood. 5 cried out in surprise, I see rice and flour. Gosh, what a blessing in lousy weather like this. Quick, let's cook some rice. 2's eyes lit up. I think I saw some cured meat hanging on the wall on our way in. Meat. All eyes widened at the mention of meat, and they reminded one of the eyes of hungry wolves. Ever since entering this terrain, they had survived on pancakes harder than rocks and colder than ice. They thought they were going to chew their teeth off. The thought of meat was most wonderful. I'll go get it. 5 rose to his feet in excitement. 10 wanted to go, but 2 stopped him. Let 5 do it. He's looking forward to it. 10 frowned. We're in the middle of nowhere and there's firewood and rice in a dilapidated temple? Don't you find that strange? The team leader shook his head. I've checked. The dust here suggests that no one has set foot in here for at least a month. Don't worry. 10 frowned. Something was nagging at him. He headed out. Where are you going? The team leader shouted after him. I'll take a walk outside. Maybe I'll find some leads. 10 then left the temple and headed north. The team leader shook his head. That guy is way too careful. 2 shook his head as well. It's one thing to be cautious, but he's overdoing it. The team leader and 2 used to find cooking a menial job, but they forgot all about that now. One lit the stove while the other put rice into a pot. Both enjoyed what they were doing. Outside, Feng had put the meat there as bait. She was waiting for someone to come and get it. She was ready to kill. Feng had planned to kill 10 first before moving on to the rest of the team one at a time. However, 10 had left and 5 was here instead. Well, 5 would do, as long as she could get close to the team. 5 was reaching for the cured meat when what happened was quicker than words could describe. Feng grabbed 5 by the ankles and pulled him into the pit. Before 5 could make a sound, Feng hit him in an acupoint, which silenced him right away. 5 glared at Feng until she knocked him out with a strike to the back of his neck. Without hesitation, Feng stripped the guy and put on his clothes. Instantly, Feng became the new 5. Fortunately for her, members of Blade all wore masks. All Feng needed to do was make some changes to her movements and her eyes. Chapter 795 Undercover. 795 Undercover. The disguise wasn't difficult for Feng at all. The difficulty lay in the fact that she didn't have much time, a few minutes at most. As expected, someone called from inside the temple. 5? 5. By then, Feng had already put on 5's clothes. She picked up the cured meat and only headed back after straightening her new outfit. Luckily, everyone wore masks, which made it more difficult for them to see through her cover. But it didn't change the fact that it was dangerous. Feng walked in to find the team leader making noodles and 2 working on the stove. This wasn't what she pictured a team of hitmen to look like. Seeing 5 come back, the team leader took over the meat from him, cut it into thin slices with his sword, then tossed the slices into the pot. Don't just stand around. We're low on water. Go fetch some snow. Sure. Feng happily did as told. The team leader and 2 started a conversation as Feng melted some snow in a bowl. The team leader said, "This Feng is an interesting case, I'll give her that. She was actually able to evade us for 3 days." If the team leader was the head of the team, then 2 was the brain. Analyzing was his specialty. As he worked on the fire, 2 said, "Feng is an incredible girl. Most of the rumors out there belittle her and call her a good-for-nothing, but they have no idea how level-headed she really is. She's been able to tolerate all the slander." The team leader frowned. "Is she that good?" 2 nodded. "Judging by the traces she left behind, she's at least a spiritual grandmaster." The team leader agreed. "An intermediate one, at least." 2 said, "She's really an impressive girl. She'll be a real threat to the Zhou family if they don't intervene." The team leader smirked. "Too bad for her. The Zhou family found out and want her dead." Feng didn't hear the rest of the conversation. All she could think of was that last sentence. The Zhou family had found out and they wanted her dead. She had taken all possible precautions, but the Zhou family had still found out. Moreover, they had sent a team of hitmen after her. The Zhou family. Taking a deep breath, Feng tried her best not to let her emotions show. 2 said, "Captain, we should be even more careful from now on. One slip and we may blow the whole thing." As impressive as this Feng Wu might be, she's an intermediate spiritual grandmaster at most. And we're still hot on the heels of this smart girl, aren't we? The team leader smirked. Any one of us can take her out by ourselves. There's no need to worry. Tu shook his head. It's not that simple. The team leader grinned. Tin's out searching for her, isn't he? I bet he'll come back with Feng Wu's head on a plate. He then darted a glance at Feng Wu over his shoulder. What's taking you so long? All you need to do is melt some snow. 5. Keep working like a sluggard and 10 will replace you in no time. Feng Wu was speechless. The team leader waved his hand impatiently. I wouldn't worry about you so much if you were half as capable as 10. You know what? Stop what you're doing. Go fetch 10. All right, Feng Wu headed out. She had been looking for an opportunity to get to 10, and it just fell into her lap. What great timing. Feng Wu was well aware that as a scout, 10 had a special ability to track things. It was because of him that she couldn't throw these people off her trail. Destroy the leader and the gang would collapse. At the moment, 10 was that leader. Chapter 796 Feng Wu the Excellent Actress. 796 Feng Wu the Excellent Actress. At that thought, Feng Wu smiled a little. However, the mask shielded her face from the team leader and 2. The team leader shook his head as he watched Feng Wu go out. 5 isn't sharp enough. If he doesn't improve soon enough, 10 is going to replace him. 2 nodded. 10 hasn't been with us long, but he's decisive and relentless, and he's an excellent cultivator too. He's got a lot of potential. The team leader smirked. Too much potential, actually. 2 darted a strange look at his captain. Was the guy threatened by the newcomer already? Feng Wu headed north after she left the temple. She had taken note of the direction 10 had headed in when the guy left earlier. Feng Wu had planned everything out from the very beginning, and everything was proceeding according to plan. She kept heading north. 10 knew how to track people and so did Feng Wu. And she was unmatched in her counter-reconnaissance skills. 15 minutes later, Feng Wu spotted 10 in a valley. Crouching down next to a pile of snow, 10 was lost in thought. What's bothering you? Feng Wu patted him on the shoulder. 10 threw a dirty look at 5, then went back to his pondering. Got a lead. Feng Wu sat down with her legs crossed and asked in a casual tone. 10 ignored her. Captain wants you back. The meal's ready. You coming? Feng Wu mimicked the way 5 spoke and she was doing an excellent job. She could fool just about anyone. It's strange. Finally, 10 began to speak. How so? The track stops here, 10 said to himself. Feng Wu was here and I can detect her scent. But where did she go? She ran away, no? But in which direction? I can only find traces of her coming here, but not. I see. 10 smacked his thigh. She went back. She doubled back to the temple. Feng Wu's hiding in the temple. H&E. Before 10 could finish what he wanted to say, a sword pierced through his chest. It went in through his back and came out through his rib. Blood dripped from the tip of the cold blade. The pain was excruciating. 10 desperately tried to turn his head. But, whoosh! The sword twisted in his chest. It hurt. You! 10 cried out in disbelief as blood gushed out of his mouth. Drawing back her flaming sword, Feng Wu watched as 10 fell to the ground. She smiled a little. 10 struggled to speak. Feng Wu. You're very smart. But it's too late for you. Feng Wu darted a glance at him. 10 was overwhelmed with emotions. After searching for Feng Wu for 3 days, he had finally found her. Among the team members. What would happen to the team now that he was gone? 10 found the idea horrifying. However, there was nothing he could do now. His life had come to an end. Feng Wu darted another look at the dead body, then began to smear 10's blood all over herself. By then the team leader and 2 had probably finished their meal, so Feng Wu began to run toward the temple. Captain! 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 The feigned panic in her voice carried very far in the wind. The team leader and 2 were talking about Feng Wu, and they rushed out as soon as they heard her shouts. Thump! Feng Wu fell to the ground and rolled around in the snow. It looked like she was barely breathing. Chapter 797 One at a Time. 797 One at a Time. The team leader rushed over to Five with a frown. Feng Wu's acting was very convincing. The team leader was about to check her pulse when she gripped his hand. I'm all right. Go help. Quickly. Her cover would be blown if he checked her pulse now. 10. The team leader's pupils contracted. He then dashed off in the direction Feng Wu had pointed in. He called over his shoulder to look after Five. Tu took Feng Wu's hand after the team leader left. Let me have a look. He immediately realized that something wasn't right. The hand was too smooth and too fair. It looked like a girl's hand. Why would Five? Wait. The idea had only just struck Tu when a dagger was buried in his chest. Thud. The blade pierced his heart and the tip came out of his back. Tu stared at Feng Wu in disbelief. Thump. He struck down at Feng Wu. A dying strike could be lethal. Luckily, Feng Wu was prepared. She had fled the other way as soon as she stabbed the guy. Tu missed his target and his palm landed on the ground. The impact created a deep pit in the ground. By then, Feng Wu had gone round behind Tu, and she kicked him into the pit he had created himself. Thump. Feng Wu pulled out the dagger. The blood was everywhere. You're Feng Wu. Tu was anything but dumb, and he saw the light right away. Feng Wu grinned. Those were Ten's last words too. 10. Yes, I've killed him too. Feng Wu smiled at him. Feng Wu had nothing against these people, but they were trying to kill her for money. She would be the dead one if she didn't strike first. Tu looked despairing. He had never expected that a simple task like this would get him killed. He died shortly afterward. Feng Wu filled the pit with snow. The team leader was the only one left in this group. That guy was a very capable cultivator. Feng Wu couldn't tell exactly what his level was, but she knew that she wouldn't be able to beat him even if she made it to level 6. Although she had poisoned the firewood, judging from the team leader's movements, the poison hadn't taken effect yet. If she tried to take him out now, Feng Wu would be the one who was killed. 5. The team leader returned with Ten's dead body over his shoulder. Seeing Five on the ground, he rushed over and tried to shake him awake. Feng Wu thought she was going to have a concussion from all the shaking when she opened her eyes. Captain! Where's Tu? Isn't he with you? Feng Wu ambushed us. Tu went after her. Feng Wu slowly rose to her feet, swaying a little. How are you doing? The team leader looked pissed. 10. The scout had been killed. It was only natural that he was displeased. I'll survive. Feng Wu gritted her teeth. She couldn't afford to act too weak now. Her cover would be blown if the team leader checked her pulse. The team leader nodded. Where did they go? Over there. Feng Wu pointed to the west. Feng Wu was injured and we knew right away that she wouldn't get very far. That was why Tu went after her. I think we'll hear good news very soon. Chapter 798 Gone? 798 Gone. The team leader frowned. Take Ten's body into the temple. I'll go find them. He dashed off after that. Watching the team leader leave, Feng Wu smiled a little. The team leader pursued with caution, but he couldn't see Tu or Feng Wu anywhere. This wasn't right. Wasn't Feng Wu supposed to be badly injured? Catching up with her should be a piece of cake. But where was she? The more he thought about it, the more doubtful he felt. He turned around and headed back. The temple was dead silent and he didn't hear a thing. The team leader walked in to find Ten's body on the ground, but where did Five go? Five? He called out with a frown. But Five didn't show, no matter how loud his voice was. That was strange. Meanwhile, Feng Wu was lying in a snow pit, waiting for the poison to take effect. She wouldn't be able to beat the team leader if she confronted him now. Her best option was to stay put and let the poison do its work. But there was one thing Feng Wu hadn't taken into consideration. The team leader was more cautious than she had anticipated. After all, he was the team leader of Blade, which was proof enough of his intelligence. He looked back on what had happened so far, from 10 leaving and 5 searching for the guy, to 10's death and 2's disappearance. Then, something just didn't feel right. What was it? The hands. The team leader swayed a little. There were old scars on 5's hands, but when 5 grabbed his hand and told him what happened to 10, those hands didn't have a mark on them. That wasn't right. When had this feeling started? After 5 went out to fetch the meat. At that thought, the team leader felt all the blood rush to his head and his mind went blank for a second. This was bad, really bad. He forced himself to calm down, then drew out his sword and scanned the entire area around the temple with his spiritual essence. It was a very energy-consuming move, but that was the last thing on his mind. He sensed something abnormal under a pile of snow by the wall. He threw his sword in that direction. Thud. Fueled by spiritual essence, the blade pierced all the way into the snow pile, the hilt included. The team leader grinned grimly. He jumped over to the pile of snow and dragged the person out. Feng Wu, there you are. However, his pupils contracted when he saw the person's face. It wasn't Feng Wu. As the leader of the team, he had seen 5 without the mask on. Right now, his sword had pierced 5 through the heart. The team leader was speechless. He killed 5. He was completely baffled. Poor man. He couldn't have expected Feng Wu to put 5 back into his outfit already. This was why she had only knocked 5 out instead of killing him right away. As expected, the team leader walked into the trap. Staring at 5 whom he had killed, the team leader thought he was going to pass out. 5 hadn't been replaced? That was to say he had gotten everything wrong. What was going on here? Feng Wu's interwoven stratagem successfully befuddled the team leader. All of a sudden, he gripped his chest as he felt a throbbing pain in his heart. That was. The team leader's face turned livid. He realized right away that he had been poisoned. Shit. Although he didn't know what it was, he didn't let his guard down. Leaping into the air, he jumped out of the window as swiftly as a swallow. He then dashed off and was soon out of sight. Feng Wu was speechless. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.